Hello, it's Gray.
Hello, it's Crystal.
And this is What's the Asian Beauties, a supernatural commentary podcast where I, someone who has seen this show a moderate amount of times, honestly.
You do say many, many a lot, and then you go through the episode and you're like, I don't
remember
happened.
anything.
I don't know this happened. And I'm like, Gray's just embarrassing himself by saying many, many. But yeah.
I think I'm going to cut back to I have seen this show many times, just the one many.
I have seen this show. End sentence.
But the thing is, even if you've seen like half of Supernatural, I think you've seen the show many, many times just because of the sheer volume of it.
You know,
yeah.
Fair. Then I've also seen the show many times.
You have. I mean, we are in season 5.
Yeah. It was supposed to end here at some point. And I, someone who only knows the show through social media, discuss every single episode of Supernatural from start to finish. Also, we are both Asian.
Both Asian. For today's episode, we will be discussing Season 5, Episode 16, Dark Side of the Moon. Written by Andrew Dabb and Daniel Laughlin. Directed by Jeff Walno. Sorry, I'm going to find out how to pronounce that, actually.
This is the only time this person has directed.
Yeah. Woolnoff is what they say.
Woolnoff. Okay.
Well, it's directed by Jeff Woolnoff. I mean, it's Andrew Dabb and Daniel Laughlin, the writing duo whose next episode, I think, is
Hammer of the Gods. Is
Hammer
that
of the
it?
Gods, yeah.
Oh, God. That's coming up in 3 episodes, yeah. I don't want it.
This is so fun. Daniel Laughlin, wrote the comics of Supernatural, I think. They're also the writers for the 3rd Supernatural comic series. Andrew Dabb and Daniel Laughlin. Not like they, them, Daniel Laughlin. Supernatural beginnings and... So stupid.
So, you know how in season 1, in the season 1 Q&A, you were like, I've come to accept that this is just the Dean Winchester show, and if I want to continue enjoying Supernatural, I'm just gonna have to live with that. Yeah. And it's like, I understand that intellectually, but I don't think I can ever really reach that level of peace. And so every time something happens on screen, I'll be like, what does Sam think about that? And Supernatural, the TV show, will turn around and spit directly in my face and say, you're fucking stupid for wondering what Sam would think about that. Sam doesn't think. Sam doesn't feel. This is about Dean Winchester, our special favorite little boy.
Supernatural, the TV show, turns to you and goes, open your mouth, say, and then spits directly inside.
Yeah, and not even in a sex way. It's horrible.
Yeah.
God, I fucking hate this episode. I'm sure for Dean Girls it's, wonderful, but, I think that this episode should die.
I mean, technically, I am a Dean girl. But I must say, I had another revelation in this episode, which, you said that my reveal in season 1 was that you just have to accept that this is the Dean Winchester show. I think now the acceptance level I'm on is that you just have to accept that this is a stupid show. So when they do stupid things, just laugh. Just go, that's funny that they think that's a worthwhile writing choice. I had this thought. I don't even remember. I just had it constantly in the episode where Dean would say something. Oh, when he was like, this is Stanford. This was a good time for you. This is a good memory for you, Sam.
Yeah, and I was like, well, this will surely lead up to a revelation that Dean is an asshole and he needs to calm down. But no.
Yeah. When I watched that, I went, I can be so upset right now. I can be mad that this is happening on my screen. Or I can do the 5D chess version of being amused that I'm so upset that they're doing this on screen. amount of like disconnection I have to do from this story to be like, yeah, this is fine. It's truly astounding. But yeah.
I don't think I'll ever be able to like this show. I think that it just can't happen.
I mean, it has happened to me before. But the thing is, okay, because you know how, like, I don't know if this person listens to the Spawncats, but, like, we were both tagged in that fucking ask for the 5 favorite characters by NPD Clara Oswald. And, like, upon that, I literally had such a hard time figuring out what does favorite mean? Because, like, it could mean such a huge array of things. And you said that, like, favorite was, like...
Well, because it said top 5 all-time favorite characters. Was the
as, like, like, not, like, just specifically characters you got obsessed with, but, like, characters that are, like, for the long haul or whatever. And I've been thinking about that, and I've also been thinking about Supernatural, as I'm forced to every week. Not forced to, we do this willingly. But, like, as I ought to every week. And then I was thinking, like, you know how, like, I've watched so much Supernatural. I've dedicated so much time thinking about it. And I have loved it at some point. And, like, I think I still do. I still harbor that kind of enjoyment for it. But, like, do I? No, I mean, the point I'm trying to make here is that I think there is a difference between liking a show, loving a show, and then also being obsessed with it. And now more than ever, I am more acutely aware of this for Supernatural.
Now that the obsession is gone?
Yes. And, like, do I like the show? No. Am I obsessed with it right now? Not really. Do I love it? But what does love mean? Is love supposed to be a positive thing? Because I have loved people that, like, are kind of, like, it was not a good love. And I feel like Supernatural falls into that category. You know? I remember I'm sorry, we're just complaining at the beginning of this episode. But, like, the very first relationship I had, when it ended, I described it as, like, oh, this feels like when I, like, broke up with Supernatural. Like, literally. Like, when I would talk to people and they ask me, how are you doing? I'd be like, do you remember when I decided to stop watching Supernatural? It feels like that. And, like, during the period where I wasn't watching Supernatural, every time I thought back to that fact that I would say that about a romantic relationship, I'd be like, man, that's so stupid. Why would I say that? And, like, now I understand it again. You know what I mean? Like, yeah. What does love mean even? And what is a relationship? And also, Supernatural is a terrible show. So those are the conclusions for today.
How many divorce eras are we going to go through with Supernatural?
I've said before that I think the most romantic thing in the world is to get divorced and then to get remarried. Yeah.
Yeah.
And, like, I think me and Supernatural have the most romantic relationship in the world. So, yeah, and you're just, like, our third, who is here for some reason. So, yeah.
Yeah. I am here, and I'll be here for 10 more seasons, baby.
I was afraid for a second you were going to say 10 more years. And I was like, oh, God. Well, let's hope not.
Yeah.
What did you know about this episode before going in?
Less than I thought I did. So I knew that they were trapped in heaven and meet Ash and Pamela.
Yeah.
For some reason I thought they would also see Ellen and Joe, but they didn't.
No.
I was also under the impression
I also thought they were going to see Ellen and Joe because I mentioned that, right? Like I said, like they're going to see Ellen and Joe.
Maybe.
When Ellen and Joe died, you were like, this is the last we're going to see of them. And I was like, no, I think they're going to show up in here.
Well.
And they don't. And I'm like, oh, okay. When did they show up?
Yeah.
Surely they must have. In heaven, right? I feel like they do. Or did we just completely make that up?
I don't know, like, was
I don't want to look it up.
their last
Let's be
appearance?
surprised. Forever.
But, like, if it never happens, like, it'll be pretty silly to spend every episode going in, like, I wonder if Ellen and Joe are here.
Ellen and Joe, supernatural. Oh, Joe's ghost shows up in Dean Winchester's trial for his guilt by Osiris. She shows up, I suppose, and so does Ellen in season 6 in the Titanic episode.
And then I knew that Pamela kisses Dean. I was under the impression that it was sexual assault, but I think that it is not portrayed like that. They learn about how heaven is everyone just being trapped in, like, their best memories or whatever, but Ash has some way to hack this in some way, and he mentions that he's seen Sam and Dean up there a few times already, but they don't remember. Cass tries to contact them through a staticky TV. Dean has a memory of young Sam with fireworks. Sam's best memory is leaving for Stanford and also running away one time. And also, for some reason, I thought that Lisa was gonna show up, but that's a different episode where she's on.
I think you were thinking about 316.
Oh, she already did that. Okay.
They went in the dream thing, right?
Yeah.
Remember?
Yeah.
What a completely random input in that episode. But okay, fine. Whatever. I mean, were they already thinking like Lisa Dean endgame for season 5? They just introduced her.
Maybe.
It's kind of fucked up that they like introduced her and they're like, we're not gonna write more episodes about her, but like,
yeah,
you know.
But 2 years later, he's gonna show up and she'll be like, yeah, live with me and my son.
Yeah. Did you know about the Mary and Zechariah?
I didn't, like, remember it when I was doing the pre-watch, like, things that I knew, but, things, like,
yeah.
Of course I've seen screenshots of, like, she's quite the MILF.
I don't remember this at all.
Oh,
not
sorry
a single
that
memory
you saw
of
that.
It. Yeah, like, this is the only. It's fascinating because I remember this episode incredibly clearly, aside from the Ellen and Joe, I guess, and also that, like,
so not so clearly.
No, like, I mean, like, every single scene in this episode, I'm like, yeah, I know that happens. And then that scene, I'm just, like, completely lost. Like, I just have no idea what was happening until it was happening. And then when it was happening, I don't remember it. I'm like, this is the first time I'm seeing it. I don't know. It's the way the brain works is truly a wonder.
Yeah.
It's also just not relevant. I mean, I don't know. Like, this episode is like, it's either plot relevant or like lore relevant or like Sam and Dean characters relevant. And like, that was the one scene where I was like, we already know Zechariah is an asshole. And I feel like we're not really particularly learning anything new. Like, we already know Dean is self-loathing. And that's not Mary, so it's not like we're learning anything new about her. So, yeah. So, like, it's kind of a pointless scene.
Yeah, it also just once more brings up the why are angels misogynistic question.
We start the episode, and Dean wakes up, and the way he's lying down is just lying on his stomach. We have seen him sleep like this, right? In season 1, episode 3, even, I think. But, like, you've seen
episode
him.
4, right? The Ackles
Was
ass
it episode
equation?
4? This is true. Is that Phantom Traveler?
I think.
Or is it the one where he dives into a lake?
No, it's not Dead in the Water. The
that's
originator
one
of the Andrea verse. I'm pretty sure it's Phantom Traveler.
Yeah, I don't know. I found, like, it's always fascinating to see Dean sleep because, like, I don't know. But it's fascinating to me.
I support you.
But yeah, he's lying on his stomach, and then he gets woken up by a guy who, like, is holding a shotgun towards him, and he tries to like get his gun under the pillow, but it's not there. You know, he wakes up, looks blearily at this guy who is like, his face is covered, and then he turns over and then looks at Sam, and Sam is already sitting up like, I'm about to get shot, I guess. Which like really sets the tone for what the vibe of this episode is gonna be in terms of point of view.
Yeah.
Like, Dean gets a whole speech in this scene, and Sam is literally like, gets
like,
shot,
well.
and that's it.
Yep.
Hilarious.
Yep.
Dean figures out who these people are, and it's people he knows. And they look upset about this whole thing. But they're saying that, like, it's a way to stop the apocalypse and, like, you know. And they don't really paint it as, like, we're doing a benevolence for the world. Yeah,
Wait,
they're painting it as, like,
I don't think they know
Sam...
about Michael and Lucifer. It's not about a way to stop the apocalypse. I think they're just taking revenge on Sam opening the
gates?
portal. Yeah.
Sam, who is at fault for everything, and is so guilty. Like, tries to explain, but he gets shot. And Dean's like, oh no.
Oh no, you can't do that, actually.
Actually. You can't do that. Anyway, like, the two guys were like, yeah, we have to shoot Dean also, because it's not like we can just let Dean stay alive and then hunt us down for the rest of our lives. So, they shoot him also. Oh, Dean does this whole threatening thing of like, yeah, shoot me. When I come back, I will get you. Don't worry about it. And they shoot him.
Do they get these guys? They do come back. Do they ever get these guys?
I don't know if they show it on screen, but like, I assume they do.
Alright. He did promise, so.
He promised. I did like the cut to the splash screen of like shooting Dean, and then straight to like the drop of blood.
Of the title card.
Hell yeah, love that.
That was fun. We are now in heaven, but heaven for Dean is that he's in his fuck ass car, wearing his leather jacket.
Yeah, I miss this leather jacket. And I do miss season 1 Dean. And isn't that so fucked up? I'll reblog it. But there's like an AMV for the song 7 by Taylor Swift for Dean. And like they use this shot from season 1 that I do quite like. I forget which episode it's from. But it's like the one where he's in the car and it's like really bright outside. What a big ass description of a scene.
The only scene where he's in the car and it's right outside, yeah.
I mean, really, like, when you see it, you'll be like, yeah, I understand why you describe it that way. That one specifically, like, that was the AMV that I watched when we were on break from BabPod. And I started really missing Dean. It was because of that AMV. And, like, this episode, when it opened with, you know, the jacket and everything, I did I was like, oh my god, remember Dean when I liked him? And then that's it. The rest of the episode is like, Dean hate her father. The thing is, like, so much of Supernatural, like, if you hate Dean Winchester, Supernatural will never stop giving you a reason to not do that. Like, Supernatural is just like, you hate Dean. That's true. I mean, that's probably the right thing to feel, maybe. Yeah. But, like,
while the writers are completely unaware of it.
People like Dean. That's the most confusing aspect for me of the Supernatural fandom. Like, you watch the show. I cannot think of a situation where you're like, love Dean Winchester above all else. And I think he's right. Okay, that's a different thing, right? You can love a character who's wrong, whatever. But like, a lot of the Dean fans are also just defending him, like in a way that I can't comprehend. But maybe when we watch the future seasons, I will comprehend that.
projection / wish fulfillment.
This is true. It's why he bottoms.
I'm sorry. There are some Dean girls who are okay and smart and cool. I'm sorry, Ellie. But yeah, I think it's either people who decide that Dean's cool guy facade is real and they're like, I wish I was a cool guy like Dean Winchester.
Yeah. That's like, I feel like the general audience vibe.
Project on eldest daughter syndrome.
This is true.
Views and things.
Yeah. I think there's also just people who are like, I can fix him.
Yeah.
I'm sure there are like, I can fix him eras in the world. And I mean, if you read Daciel fanfiction, so many people make Cass the way he is in their fic because they're like, me and Cass together, we can fix Dean Winchester.
Yeah.
Which is pretty funny.
Pretty funny. Well, I think that those people are very noble, and I hope that they do that for the sake of everybody else in the world whose lives Dean Winchester is ruining, such as mine. The leather jacket is a sign that he's gonna have daddy issues this episode.
Of course.
But he has more mommy issues than daddy issues in this episode. Shout out. Equality.
Is it mommy issues if your mommy died? Like, I feel like that's unfair to the mommy. If you're like, I have mommy issues. Why? What did she do to you? She died when I was 4. Like,
you're right. I'm sorry. Yeah. He has trauma around the fact that his mother died when he was 4. Well, he's still annoying. Oh, and also Bob Dylan's Knocking on Heaven's Door is playing, if I didn't mention that.
Yeah, you didn't, and I didn't notice. Also, I just don't know this song. Oh my god, a song that you know and I don't. Truly a wonder.
Oh, I mean, I only know it because the captions had the lyrics in, and also the name.
This is true.
But this yeah, God, I'm so bad at Bandle. Anyway.
This is true. But I have decided to be to take a neutral position with regards to how terrible you are at Vandal, so I will shut the fuck up.
I'm better at connections than you currently.
This is true. Yeah.
There we go. Dean gets out, and there's Sam, as played by Colin Ford, who is there. Sorry, I just remembered a post by a Dean girl that was like, the only reason I can stand Sam / like Sam is because I like Colin Ford Sam. And it's like, what is the world that you live in? Like, I like Colin Ford Sam too. He's in like 2 episodes. What is this? Anyway.
Yeah. Like, you can just say you don't like Sam.
Yeah.
Like, it's fine.
Just be straight up. Just be yourself.
This is true.
He's there with fireworks, and Dean's confused, but realizes quickly that this is a memory of July 4th, 1996. So apparently he and Sam went out without John's knowledge and lit up a bunch of fireworks in a field.
They're so near the fireworks too.
Yeah. Kid Sam goes, Dad would never let us do anything like this. Thanks, Dean. This is great. And hugs him. Whatever. Blah, blah, blah. This makes Dean emotional because there was a time when he was, like, distinct from John in a way that, like, he feels like, blah, I don't know. I don't know what the analysis is. Who cares? Anyway, just Dean's obsessed with his older brother Roland. Sam thinking that he's, like, good or whatever. Cool. Who cares? I
mean, yeah, I do understand the feeling of like thinking that something is like a pivotal moment for you and your sibling in terms of your relationship, and then being proven wrong, I suppose. Like, I understand that feeling because one time when House MD was released on Netflix, I messaged our family group chat and like added my sister, and I was like, hey ate, they're releasing House MD on Netflix, and she did not do a heart react on my message, and I was like, wait, I thought this was a bonding experience for us. But yeah, so I understand.
Well, see, that's much worse than what happened to Dean.
This is
like, I understand you reacting negatively to that, but like, Dean hasn't been through anything close to that.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Like, you celebrated 4th of July. You do that every year. There's a 4th of the July every fucking year.
It's true.
House MD only
like
comes out on
skip
Netflix once.
Exactly. Anyway, as the fireworks go off, they sort of bring Dean back to the memory of being shot. And then he goes back to the Impala, and Cass talks to him on the radio, and Cass is so cute this episode. At least we have Cass.
I know.
Yeah.
When he was on the TV, I think that was like the only part of the episode where I did crack like a genuine smile. Because there are other moments in this episode where I like laugh, but like in a disbelieving sort of way, like, huh, that's so stupid. But that was the only one where I was actually like amused, etc. Also, I mean, let's talk about it when the scene happens. But Cass is like actually like a very attractive person. I feel like
we say this a lot.
I know, but like I forget and then I remember. And also I think I just severely underrated the fact that like people probably did like Cass because he was attractive.
Yeah.
And like now I'm like, yeah, probably that's what happened. Do you think I liked Cass because he was attractive?
Maybe.
Yeah, it could have happened.
I think it's hard to divorce that from your liking of a character.
Yeah, which makes it completely unromantic.
Yes, exactly. Took me a second.
I know. I was so embarrassed. Well, anyway.
No, that was pretty good. It's just been a little while, so like, you know, the joke callback rate. My brain recall.
If you said divorce instead, like, you'd understand immediately.
Yes, exactly. Cass tells Dean that you're aware that this isn't a dream. You're aware that you're dead in heaven. And he's contacting Dean through some spell or connection.
Yeah. Dean goes, I'm dead? And Cass goes, condolences.
Yes,
so true.
He's so cute.
I mean, to be fair, like it has happened a lot of times before. So like to Sam and Dean, it's like, oh my god, we've died. And Cass is like, yeah, I mean, it's the 3rd time this month, so like don't get too excited.
Yeah, I mean, Sam died in 513 3 episodes ago.
Literally.
Like that guy's dying.
He's a regular here.
So, Cass says that Dean needs to follow, like, the path that he sees in front of him, which, for him, is just a regular road that the Impala is on, and that he'll find Sam eventually along
I mean, obviously, there's, like, the implications of this episode to what happens in 1520, but 1520 is one so far from my mind to so far from my heart. So, like, I don't think we need to consider it.
Oh. Well, Jack already fixed it.
Heaven?
In 1520, right?
Did they? Oh, yeah, you're right. Cass helped, blah, blah, blah. And then Bobby does a look, and then Dean does a look, and people were like, they're in love. To be fair, they are in love, but, like, Bobby and Cass, not Dean and Cass. Like when Dean when Dean looks down and laughs at that, it's because he's like, wow, Bobby and Cass figured it out finally. Those crazy kids are gonna make it.
Yeah. Yeah. You know, like before Cass did the 1518 confession, he asked Dean to like tape a picture of Bobby over his face, but like we just didn't see that because it wasn't relevant.
It wasn't relevant to Dean Winchester's journey, which is the main character of this show. Him and him alone.
But yeah, so Dean drives and then he shows up at a house.
Inside the house, we see that Sam is in the dining
Is in
room.
an outfit.
Yeah, and he's with this little, like, I would say, like, teenager, right? Like 15 maybe. So
yeah, I think.
yeah.
Did Sam say he was 11 in this memory? So I'm assuming the girl is. So I'm assuming the girl's in the same grade as him.
This is true. So
Like
yeah.
a classmate. Yeah.
So Sam is having Thanksgiving with a family of a girl that he's dating, I guess, in 11th grade. That's like... No, not 11th grade. 11 years old.
Yeah.
That's like 5th grade. People are going over at other people's houses in 5th grade.
The first half of 6th grade, I think, because it would be November.
That's a bit wild. Like, isn't like Thanksgiving an important American holiday?
It is, but a lot of people also, I guess, have like, they invite their neighbors or whatever. I think if Sam just made it clear that, I don't know, if his dad
he's not
was
celebrating
out of town or whatever, yeah, I think it
might as well
would be, yeah.
Okay, so
Yeah, he's wearing a white shirt,
and like a really
as an
red
11-year-old.
tie.
A what tie?
Wait, wasn't it like a red tie?
Was it?
I think it was.
I don't recall.
I think he was channeling My Chemical Romance from the future.
So true. But I guess everyone is dressed sort of formally at this, so he's not.
Yeah. Like the girl he's with is
weird.
wearing like a pink, like, cocktail dress. So, like, you know, it's like a kind of formal thing. Mm-hmm. So, yeah, like, the conversation is so banal. It's like, oh, you're here. Like, how long you been here? You know, like, literally, like, you know, super nothing.
Only
which
2
is the point.
weeks, and he has a girlfriend who
is
he's
true.
going to Thanksgiving dinner with.
Yeah. I spent the entire year in 6th grade in one school, and I did not get a single girlfriend. So Sam's really on it in 6th grade, I guess.
He's
Wasn't he getting
14
bullied?
in after school special?
Yeah. Maybe he was.
So-
Wasn't he being bullied specifically for being short?
I mean, I guess in 6th grade, like,
You can be
a
tall,
lot of
yeah.
guys haven't been growing up, like, so he's probably not short
This is
amongst
true.
other 6th graders at this point.
Yeah.
And you know, maybe Stephanie loves a short king.
While this is all happening, Dean shows up. And yeah, Sam is like, what the fuck are you doing in my dream? And
Dean's
yeah, it's
very
not
judgmental. Like,
Yeah,
when Dean
Dean
shows
is
up, he
literally-
goes, wow, just wow.
Dean is so judgmental over literally everything. And like, I understand that we are both fundamentally haters. But like, this is too much. I feel like, you know, your haterism, you should draw a line. And the line is like, another person is telling you or showing you or whatever their most significant memories. You need to shut the fuck up.
Also, like, I can understand being mad about the, like, running away and the going to Stanford,
is, like,
even though I don't relate to
whatever.
it. But this is just, like, Sam, like, went to a house for dinner and the food was good and he was, like, with someone he was close to at the time. Like, that's a good memory. Like, what is so terrible about that? Like,
And
what
I
is-
mean,
how is that, like, a
later-
personal affront?
Later, Dean kind of tries, or like, not even Dean, like, I think the story kind of tries to justify it by being like, every single memory you have is about being away from the family. And it's like,
the first one,
that's,
sample size
like,
1 right
yeah.
now.
That one specifically is about the pattern established by the memories. And there's no pattern yet because it's just the one. So, like, yeah, Dean's just being an asshole.
I get, like, making a joke about, like, I don't like the fact that,
But
like,
he seems
Sam's currently
genuinely
full grown
upset,
and it's,
yeah.
like, an 11-year-old here, but, like, yeah, he's actually upset.
Yeah, but Dean realizes that they're in heaven. Dean is like, wow, so, like, is heaven just, like, a Rolodex of your best memories? That sucks. And I mean,
Yeah.
it does
Oh,
suck.
and a fun
obviously.
effect is that when Sam is like out of the room, like the memory
Yeah.
keeps playing out, so like the family keeps like directing questions towards an empty chair, and then
It
all
feels
that.
like it's like the logic of the scene is still like that Sam is responding to the inquiries, and that's fine, and that is
Yeah.
rather fun. That like you can just
Yeah.
remove yourself, and also, okay, let's talk about the mechanics of this heaven situation for a bit. Juan, it seems like with Ash and later with like the other people, like well, Ash and Pamela specifically, and then the people that Ash talk about, like he specifically talked about going to Einstein, and then Einstein made him like a cocktail. So like that means that like they're not stuck in their memory. And with Ash specifically, it's like he's just in a place. Like he's in his memory, but like it's
Yeah, I
not
mean,
a specific memory.
It's possible that his best memory just involves him being alone in the roadhouse doing something.
This is true.
Yeah.
So, but
So
yeah.
like it's still like playing out like a movie around him, but the movie is just that nothing happened and he was alone, so he can just do whatever.
I mean, one, like, couple questions, right? Like, one, as you said, like, if your memory is just like, oh, I had a really fun time, like, reading a book at in my dining room once. And it's like,
Yeah.
okay, so is the memory just like you read the book again and then you can just opt out of it? And then so the
I
memory
think
is
it's
null.
in your dining room and the book is there and you can read it or you cannot.
That's hilarious. Also, like, obviously, like, what if you die young and you have, like, very little memories? And also,
Yeah.
what if your memories are all bad, like Sam Winchester? Like, what if you lived a pretty difficult life? Even in heaven, there's, like, inequality for, like, oh, I mean, what
True.
if you were living a quite horrible life in real life, your memories are probably not even gonna be that good. So like,
Yeah, you're
whatever.
not actually able to achieve happiness in death or anything. Yeah.
Yeah, and they try to address this by being like, I don't know, it's change, but like not in any way conceivable to us because we don't see it. Also, this just makes the whole bit about like Mary. I talked to Mary in heaven after Jack killed her, and she said she was happy there, so we can bring her back. Even more stupid.
It's quite funny. Yeah. So, didn't you say
stupid.
that she and John share a heaven? So I guess they can interact with each other like regular people.
Yeah.
Yeah, and the idea is just that the memories are so engaging
Intertwined.
that you don't get bored like replaying them over and over.
Yeah.
It's like Pamela's like, I'm having a great time, and it's like, are you not bored?
Also, like, memories change in terms of, like, value as your life goes. Like, I'm sure, like, you know, like, sometimes you have a really good memory, and then you lose that friend, you lose that family member, you know, and then it becomes, like, a difficult memory. So, what's the equation there? Like,
Yeah,
when
it
you
seems
are
like
in
they're
that memory...
experiencing it the way they did in the moment, though. It seems like
think
they're
so?
like very like in that mindset when they're experiencing the memory. So I
But
think
it's
perhaps each time it feels like you're experiencing it for the first time, so you don't get
Yeah.
bored.
Perhaps. I mean, that's the most ideal. Versus, like, you have already grown past this person that experiencing this memory, this version of yourself, and then you just go back to it with all of the insights that you have afterwards, which is, like, kind of fucked up. And also, like, what version of you is yourself? Is, you know, like, Sam is, like, his current version of himself, and Dean is his current version of himself. Ash seems to be the version of himself when he died. Pamela has her eyesight back. So that's not the case for her. And, like, obviously, what it is ableism on the side of supernatural. But, like,
yeah,
I don't know. It really puts you off, don't it?
yeah.
I mean, later on, when Sam Winchester dies an old man, he comes back 38 years old in heaven. And then he waves at the camera.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for watching Supernatural. Bye-bye. Why did they do that? Why did they do that? That's so... Why?
They just don't care about being a TV show. They just care about being a thing that makes people go to cons.
Yeah. But, like, you can just not put that in. Or you can do, like, a credits roll. And then you do, like, a bye, everyone.
Yeah.
Also, like, they did a whole, like, hour-long pre-finale looking back show. The one where, like, Jensen Ackles says that Cass is the third brother.
Yeah.
And, like, I don't know. I watched that shit live, right? So, I watched... Because people were like, is it gonna be 2 hours long? Or what the fuck is gonna happen? So I watched it, and then I realized what was happening, and I was like, oh, this finale is gonna be a normal length. But for some reason, they aired it earlier in Canada. So, like, they aired it, like, an hour earlier in Canada. So the people who are in Canada watching already know what the finale is, but I didn't believe them, because they were talking about it on the timeline. And I was like, that sounds so stupid. I think these people are pranking us. Like, not a single thought in my head was dedicated to thinking that Sam Winchester has a child, and then he walks with the child, and the child has an embroidered Dean on his, like, a fucking onesie. So we know that Sam named him Dean. It's, like, a real thing that happens in the finale of Supernatural, so I just ignored it.
Man, you were warned and you did not heed it. Canadians were like Cassandra in this way.
This is true. Oh my god. And then I kept being obsessed with Supernatural after that. And probably
and
because
then you
of that.
started a podcast.
Yeah. I did, yeah. Yeah, so we're in heaven. That's what's happening. I mean, I had this idea. The reason why I brought up the Ash and Pamela one is because Sam says, like, you know, like, your life flashes before your eyes. So I was like, maybe when you enter heaven the first time, you have this, like, Rolodex of memories. And then when it runs out, you just live there. Like, in your whatever. I don't think that's the case. Dean says his first gripe, which is that, like, wow, this is, like, a wonderful moment for you, like Thanksgiving, whatever. And Sam was like, well, we never really had Thanksgiving. It starts the resentment thing in this episode.
Yeah.
It's just also, like, you know, I feel like, personally, if I have a sibling who, like, I find out that their best memories are all about being away from the family.
Yeah.
Like, my worry won't be that, like, you hate us. It's that... And also, the memories are just not that good. Like, Sam's memories, the rest of... It's alone on a dark street. Like... His memories are, like, in like, a house that's a bit dingy. In someone else's house having dinner. And alone on a dark street at night. Like, these are not, like, extravagant memories. Like, my main concern would be, like, do you have a difficult life? Like, that would be your main concern, right? Like, how is it that your life has been filled with so much misery that this is the best that it can be? Mm-hmm. It's just so wild to me that, like, Dean... I mean, you know, this is Dean. He's like a father to us, Winchester, so... We're his family. Is that what that's right?
These are Sam's best memories, though, because there's nothing from Stanford. Like, they just picked memories that would make Dean react angrily.
This is true. Oh, that makes me feel
here.
more. This makes me feel more upset. Like, yeah, Jess should have been here, and like his friends from Stanford, and then like I don't know, studying in the library because he's really into that.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I mean, I think personally, one of my best memories in life is like when I entered my university library for the first time and realized that this was a library I have access to. I feel like Sam would have like the exact same experience in university. And Stanford too. Like
that there's not. Okay, Sam meets Amelia Pond in a library.
Really?
Girl Next Door. Is that not how
in Stanford or like in general?
No, like the.
Oh, they were
like
younger.
Amy
They were like
Pond,
in middle
they were,
school or
like,
something.
Kids, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I guess there's one library, and there's just not a lot of libraries in Supernatural, right? Which is weird because that's like the place that like you go
and you have your
if you're
iCards
like
there.
a kid and you want like a free place to stay with entertainment and like air conditioning / heating, right?
No, I was
like,
thinking more about like when they're doing research, they also don't just go to libraries that much, or like they send Sam there and he comes back and we don't see him in the library.
Yeah.
We should have had an episode of Supernatural where Sam has almost a supernatural ability in terms of like memorizing the fucking... What's that called?
Dewey Decimal System?
Yeah, the Dewey Decimal System. Like,
yeah.
I think Sam should have the entire Dewey Decimal System memorized. And they're like, people are like, oh, this is the boy with the demon blood. And Sam is like, and I have the Dewey Decimal System memorized. I feel like that should be the more important thing.
Would Sam enjoy being a librarian? I don't think so. I think he can't do rote work. But actual librarianism isn't rote work, though. I mean, yeah, a lot of people come in.
But you know what?
I think that he'd be bad at customer service.
I
which
think
is
Sam
a lot of being a librarian.
would really do the parasocial thing, like, as a librarian. Like, really.
Which is?
Like, when people are like, I'm looking for this book, and he'll be like, great, let me take you to the shelf. And not only will he give you the book, he will give you, like, 50 other books that you may be interested in also.
How is that parasocial?
I'm not using the correct word. He's really enthusiastic about it. I think there's a situation where Sam could be really enthusiastic about being a librarian.
Yeah, though I think his book recommendations would all kind of be bad because he would just decide everyone was his mirror.
It's a mirror to himself.
Then, like, bring them to like one of like 10 books that he cares about deeply.
He'll be like, no, yeah, this is good. You should read it. And it's like the exact book he's reading right now.
Yeah.
And also like, this is so stupid. I'm such a loser. But one time I needed to email the library for something. And completely unrelated thing from what I'm about to say next. Our library also have a digital theater plus subscription. So like I watch I watch some stuff there. And I, at the end of that email, mentioned that like, hey, also I really like our digital theater plus subscription, and I really enjoy it. And then I talked about watching about nothing.
And then when they good, like it tells them to keep paying for it.
I mean, that's why I sent it, because I was like, yeah, you need to keep this here. But like, I did talk quite a bit about Much Ado About Nothing also, which was completely unnecessary. And then when they replied, they completely didn't acknowledge it.
No!
And I felt so embarrassed. I feel like Sam Winchester, as a librarian, would have responded to me.
Yeah. Sam would have watched it before responding to you.
This is true. He would do like a deep dive analysis of Much Ado About Nothing in our email thread.
Yeah. Oh, I'm sad Sam didn't get to be a librarian.
Yeah. Now back to the terrible episode.
Yeah, okay, if we want to like not, what is it? Watsonian if we want to watch Sony and Lee talk about how none of Sam's memories are from Stanford, like, I don't know, I guess there's the, like, it's tinged with too much pain for him right now reading. Yeah. And there's the, like, he never felt like he fit in, even though he was, like, trying so hard to live a normal life. Reading of it. He had a
girlfriend.
What?
I mean, did he also not fit in Jessica? What? With Jessica. She didn't even... Jessica is so horrible.
I think he fit in Jessica. All right. I mean, but she didn't even know he had a brother.
This is true. But, like, I feel like, you know, I didn't know you were left-handed. I will carry this forever.
And we were still able to have a true and beautiful friendship, so Sam and Jess should have been fine with Jess not even knowing Sam had a brother.
Like, I mean, they probably would have been dating around 2 years at that point. And I feel like learning that your romantic partner has a brother 2 years into your relationship is, like, less substantial than learning that your friend and podcast co-host of 2 years is left-handed. Like,
I agree.
I mean, like, yeah, I experienced a more significant
visceral emotional response. It's true. But yeah, and it's like, I don't think you need to know that your partner has a brother if, like, that's, like, just something that he's leaving behind in the past or whatever. But, like, It is helpful to understand why he reacts the way he does to certain things or whatever. And I'm sure that he had to lie about other things or, like, quell his emotional responses to things in order to maintain the lies that he was keeping with Jess. So
yeah,
it is also possible that strain made it so that he wasn't really properly happy.
Yeah, and, like, the thing with Dean is, like, his memories are about, like, relational. It's like me and my brother doing a thing. And specifically, like, the brother is the point. And then with me and my mom are doing a thing, it's specifically that the mom is the point. You know what I mean? Versus with Sam.
I viewed those memories as the point is that he's needed.
Yeah. Like, it's about the relational aspect of it. Versus Sam, like, even in the other two scenes, he's basically alone. Like, in the Stanford scene, he's alone for real. And then the other one, he has a dog. And then the other one, like, he's with the family. But the point of the scene, the thing that makes it good, is that he's away from, like, other people. The independence that fosters in him. So, like, yeah, like, I guess, like, Sam and Dean are just different in that way. Like, Dean needs to be needed. Dean needs like to be part of a dynamic. Like, it's essential for his enjoyment. Versus Sam, who is humming in a podcast.
Everyone's stream Born to Be Needed by Tennis. But yeah.
But versus Sam, who prioritizes the, like, I'm alone aspect of life.
Or the independence. And they just go back to working together.
Yeah.
They just do.
You know, in Succession, when Kendall goes, like, the thing is, what it seems to me that, like, if we're together, you're going to be sad. But if we're not together, I'm gonna be sad. So one of us is gonna be sad anyway. I just don't understand why it has to be me. Like,
real.
That's kind of Dean's vibe in literally every single relationship in his life. Someone's gotta be miserable, and it's not gonna be me, so it's gotta be you.
What a guy.
As they figure out how to fucking get out of there and stuff, Dean sees a radio, and then he, like, starts calling Cass. Like, he literally just starts being like, Cass, and treating the radio like Cass is there, which is so wonderful. And Sam is like, what the fuck are you doing? And Dean's like, yeah, Cass still talk to me and, like, this radio thing, so yeah. I mean, Cass is, you know, a radio guy. That is the first way he tried to communicate that we've seen in the show. Through a radio. Yeah, he shows up He's on the television, and it's like a close-up of his face, and the TV has a bit of static in it, so it's, doing the thing. Well, you know what the thing is? Like, this one, and then the scene later with Cass, I had this idea in my head that it was, like, so cinematic while watching the episode. I was like, wow, it's so cinematic. And it's, like, the only two scenes that I thought that about in the entire episode. And I think what it is just, like, because I see these scenes a lot, GIFed with the TV and then, like, in AMVs too, and etc. So there's that association in my head. But also I think it's just because I was enjoying the scenes. I was like, wow, so wonderful. The cinematography is so amazing. I can't believe the director thought of this. And then the rest of the episode is like, whatever. Dean says that, like, yeah, I found Sam, but something happened. Oh, we didn't even talk about, like, the fucking... There's, like, a searchlight that's...
Oh, yeah, something weird happened with the house where everything went, like, dark and then there was light and things.
Yeah.
Yeah, what you said.
Cass goes, don't go into the light, because that's Zachariah and he's looking for you. Cass is saying that, like, you can't say yes to Lucifer and Michael if you're dead, so Zachariah is trying to put you back to your body.
Sam says, great, problem solved, and for a second I was like, oh, he just wants to stay dead, good on you, Sam. But what he meant was, oh, like, we aren't gonna stay dead because Zachariah will return us. 3 episodes ago, you guys were both fine with dying. Like, honestly, just stay here.
Yeah, and Cass is like, no, don't go back to your bodies, because, they're in heaven and they can
You're so
find
sexy.
Joshua, who is, he talks to God. He's an angel who talks to God. And Cass, like, Dean asks, like, why not you? Why don't you do it? And Cass says, I can't return to heaven. Which, like, I think we do a little pause that thing Supernatural does when they're like, oh, you, the audience, you're supposed to process this. They also do it in the fucking soulmate scene. Like, when...
Yeah, and I don't understand what that was about.
Yeah, because,
the point is just that Sam and Dean don't share a heaven, so they're not soulmates. Yeah.
But, like, from Ash's perspective, is it like, oh, so you guys share... You're soulmates because you share a heaven? Because I don't think he knows that they don't share a heaven.
Yeah, I'm not
sure. So it was like, Ash is pausing to be like, oh, you guys share a heaven. But, like, the pause to us is for us to realize that they don't share a heaven. I don't know. But, yeah, Cass can't go back to heaven. And, like, him saying this, like, obviously we knew this already. But, like, him saying it out loud just makes it a little bit more real. And just contributes just a little bit more to Cass's, starting from this episode, like, hopelessness regarding the apocalypse situation. And, I mean, the beginning of the season, we see the end Cass and the hapless, hopeless, blah, blah, blah. I don't think we were, like, ever really in any danger for Cass to get there. But I think in season 5 specifically, Cass gets there more than in any other season. Yeah. It's kind of like, it's his first rodeo. Versus, I feel like in future seasons, when he gets into hopeless situations, he now has an understanding that, like, I've been hopeless before and it turned out okay. So I don't have to go that full route of hopelessness.
And he has more trust in Team Free Will in future seasons, I assume.
They literally kick him out.
Oh, never mind.
Yeah.
But doesn't he think Dean is a broken shell of a man this season?
This is true. So, yeah. And also, just because, like, there's more on the shoulders of this, really. Like, here it's not that just Cass is cast out and alone. It's that Cass is cast out and alone, and the world is gonna end, and they can't stop it. Versus in season 9. He
thought God was their only hope, and then he finds out God to gaff.
Yeah. Not only the gaff, but, like, actively gives a fuck about not the gaffing. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. Like, if they just found God, and God was like, oh, yeah, Sorry, man. Like, that's God degaffing. But, like, God literally called on Joshua to call on Sam and Dean to be like, leave me alone. Like, that's an active choice.
Yeah. Wait, so I guess we can discuss that when that happens, but I am curious about what that means about what's happening in Chuck's brain and whether Chuck is Chuck or God right now, but we'll get to it.
Yeah. I mean, I have no answer for that, so...
Yeah, we'll not get to it.
We'll get to it in, like, the end of season 5, maybe. Cass is saying, just follow the road, because there's this Axis Mundi, which is, like, the path that connects everything in heaven. And for Sam and Dean, it's 2-lane asphalt. They're supposed to go to the garden where they'll find Joshua. You know, it does make... I mean, I understand that the Metatron is, like, the scribe of God for real. Do you think it would have been more beneficial for Supernatural to bring back Joshua in that role? But I suppose because they already were intent on making Metatron like a villain, they can't really bring back Joshua unless they want to completely uproot his character.
Yeah. I don't really know Metatron that well, so I can't say.
They try to look for a street, but like when they go out of the front door, there's no road. It's just trees. So they go back inside and like look inside places. Like at some point, Dean is like trying to look inside a closet, and Sam goes, "What? You're gonna go into the closet or something?"
No, he says you think the road is in a closet, but
Yeah.
it would be funny if he said the thing you said.
Yeah. Dean does go into the closet, and he finds a toy car on the ground with like a toy road track. He's like, "Wow, I used to play with this when I was a kid." He doesn't say it like that, but again, he should have.
Yeah.
And he zooms the car. We get back to them. They're like in a different place, and he's wearing jeans and like a shirt that says "I love hugs."
Yes.
And a blue flannel shirt. I mean, it's just so fast. Did Mary dress him up like
dress
this
him
as a
in
kid?
flannel when he was like
In
5 or
flannel?
some shit.
He was 4. Because
4?
Mary
yeah,
died.
no, you're right. She died.
He was probably 3, right?
Yeah, probably.
Like no, Mary says he has 2 boys at home. Mary tells John like, you have 2 boys at home.
Okay, so there's a 6-month period that this could have happened in.
So yeah.
God, literally, she put him in like a fucking hunter fit when he was 3 or 4.
I know.
Incredibly funny behavior. And she did layering for a toddler.
Like, was there a contract? Like, in Jensen Ackles' contract, was he like, I can never just be in one layer? Like, you need to put me in a flannel at all times? Like, why is this here?
He was like, the sight of my bare arms paired with the I Love Hugs t-shirt it'll end the world somehow.
Dean realizes that he's in his childhood bedroom. Giant bedroom for a child, first and foremost.
You grow into them. They don't make houses with tiny bedrooms that you eventually throw away, so I guess.
You demolish completely. Yeah. And then Mary shows up in the doorway, and she's like, "Hi."
And she's wearing
a white
dress.
thing. The allegations are never stopping.
She's like cooking, right?
Yeah.
Okay, she's making a sandwich, so I guess there's not much room for spills. But like,
She's
like, don't
milk
wear a
and
white
sandwich.
dress. Yeah, I guess like your dress won't get too fucked. But like, I don't know, just don't wear a nice white dress in the kitchen. It doesn't make any sense. So she asks Dean if he's hungry. She's pouring him a glass of milk and making him a PB&J. And asks if he wants the crusts cut off, and Dean's like, "Yeah, I'd love that." What a loser! I think it's fine for people to have issues with the crusts. I just think that Dean Winchester, as an adult, just needs to stop playing around in this memory and move on. But anyway, You
Yeah,
saw
exactly.
her 3 episodes ago.
I mean, okay, the thing is, like, you said that, like, they're experiencing it the first time. But, like, I don't think Dean is.
Yeah, because he's fully aware that Sam's there.
And he's telling
like, he's
Sam
literally
to shut
just
the
going
fuck
through
up.
the movements. Yeah.
Yeah. What a loser. Sam's completely fine for his loser memories, but Dean is a fucking loser for real.
Yeah. I mean, if Sam's memory involved a Thanksgiving dinner when he was, like, 4, where, like, the dad of the other family was feeding him little bites of turkey from his fork, I would also call him a loser. And this is basically that to me. Sam tries to talk to Mary, and Dean's just like, well, I guess this isn't your memory, Sam. Bye. Yeah, and Sam wants them to keep looking for the road, but Dean wants to play out the rest of this memory. So Mary's on the phone. She's in a fight with John where he'd moved out for a few days. Horrible fight if it was able to overcome the Cupid powers. We really don't get an idea of what this fight is about.
Yeah.
Mary mentions the 2 boys at home, but I think that's about how John says that he's going to move out for a few days to think about it. So
yeah.
Dean is like, oh yeah, I remember this. And Sam says, Dad always said they had the perfect marriage. And Dean says it wasn't perfect until after she died, which I think is a level of insight that Dean Winchester doesn't have.
I mean,
Or,
I think
I don't know.
I think he has it.
I don't think he would say it.
I think in this moment he would. Like, they are in a special circumstance. I feel like in real life,
True.
unless they are actively talking about memories with Mary, he would never say it. But, like, in the situation, like, yeah.
Fair. It's just like a bitter thing to say, though, and I don't know if that's where he is emotionally.
I mean, what is the last episode where we actively think about John? Like, in Supernatural? Was it Adam?
I mean, I guess. I mean, I'd say we think about John and Some Remains the Same, an amount.
Oh, this is true.
And also, I mean, I guess the John-Mary marriage gets mentioned in My Bloody Valentine.
Yeah.
Which, I guess that could be what Dean is sort of referring to, like, this newfound knowledge.
No, but, like,
the Cupid
specifically,
thing.
like, in terms of Dean's bitterness to John, the last I can remember is the episode with Adam, which is in season 4. But I think the follow-through of in that episode, Dean is starting to kind of realize, like, things about John.
Mm-hmm.
And act on it verbally, you know?
Mm-hmm.
Like, when Dean was like, you know, about the thing about that is I try to be so much like him, but I will never be as much as like him as you are. Mm-hmm. And Sam's like, oh, thank you, I'll take that as a compliment. And Dean goes,
Yeah.
you take that however
Take it
you
any
want.
way you like, yeah.
Yeah. You know, we are seeing this glimpses of Dean's feelings of bitterness, maybe resentment, maybe towards his dad. And like, I think this is like a natural follow through to that.
Yeah,
Also,
that's fair.
I just disagree with the notion that Dean is unaware of his feelings. I think Dean doesn't talk about his feelings and actively tries not to think about them. But, you know, that's what's so interesting about Dean as a character. Because we do focus on him a lot. And we focus on his feelings a lot. But I think very rarely are we given, like, insight on what he thinks about those feelings, you know?
Yeah.
He'll be like, I feel so guilty. And it's like, okay, so what do you think about that guilt, Dean? And we don't know. That is why in moments when we do know, it's like a bit shocking, you know? Like, you know, people have talked a lot, including me, I'm the people, about 1509 when he apologizes to Cass and how that's a big deal because he explains his feelings. Like, he doesn't just say, I feel this way. He says, I feel this way because, and it provides like such a shock because Dean never does that. And also informs us that, like, he does know why he does things. He does know why he feels things. It's just never explored. Like, apparently it's also not relevant to his journey. So I don't know. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think Dean would have complex thoughts about John and Mary's relationship. I think also for the longest time he felt obligated because Sam was so against John to stand up for John in a way.
Yeah.
And now that Sam is a little bit more ambivalent and possibly even leaning into being agreeing with
Sam's
John's
quite
sentiments
pro John
at this point. Yeah. Like, Dean is suddenly put in a situation where he is allowed now to not defend John 24/7 to Sam. Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's true. I think what is most prominent for me is just that Dean did the Winchesters, but that was like OOC, I suppose. So
Yeah, that doesn't matter to me. Oh, I can't believe I just spent this first half of this episode lambasting Dean girls, and now here I am. But it is interesting. But whatever. But it is interesting. But again, whatever.
it's interesting enough. I mean, I say that. I think I was experiencing like the physical ADHD pain you feel when you're bored while you were talking. But I think what you were saying was still important. Anyway, Mary hangs up and she's like tearing up a little. And Sam asks what happens next. And then Dean goes over and hugs her and says, "It's okay, Mom. Dad still loves you. I love you too. I'll never leave you."
Hilarious.
Hilarious thing for a 4-year-old to say. But yeah, I don't know. I guess kids just say words sometimes and they don't really make that much sense.
Yeah. I mean, what this is, I think, those are words that John would say to Mary. And
I'll never
Dean
leave
would
you.
hear. Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, and Dean would hear it and be like, that's how you express love.
And Mary calls him her little angel. And then is like, "I'll get you some pie."
Do you want some
Jesus
pie with
Christ.
your fucking PB&J bread and your glass of milk? Let's not be too judgmental about the food. Well, we are judgmental about the food in Supernatural. I think that's fine, actually. Remember when I went here and I was like, the Denny's I ate was bad, and I was like, trying so hard to not say it because I was like, let's not offend the American audience.
Yeah, did you cut out a lot of you saying that Denny's was bad because you didn't want to hurt our audience's feelings?
Yeah. Well,
Yeah, okay. I think that... Yeah, I mean, I'm not judging, like, them for whatever food they're able to provide their kid, whatever. It just does feel like it's on par with the vegetables are gay thing. That, like... I don't know, it's just, like, classic kid food, glass of milk and slice of pie. I get it. You're, like, white U.S. Americans. Okay. You know, white U.S. Americans can eat lettuce, too. But anyway...
Yeah. In a situation where Mary does serve Dean, like, let's say some greens, right? Maybe a carrot with some ranch. People eat that, right?
Yeah.
I think literally everyone would be writing think pieces on Tumblr about,
Literally.
like, the implication of the fact that Dean, you know, when he was a kid, he used to eat vegetables, and then Mary died, and John raised him to be a vegetable hater.
Was a vegetable. But yeah,
No, I think the thesis of that would be like how repression is a learned thing, blah blah blah, masculinity, blah blah blah.
Yeah, Sam like eats vegetables because of blah blah blah, but like John specifically cruelly took vegetables away from Dean while raising him.
No, I mean, I do understand. Like, this would portray Sam being into vegetables as like a rebellion of some kind, which is also hilarious. Which is also so funny.
I mean, it is already. It's a rebellion against Dean.
I love vegetables because when I was a kid, my dad never let us eat vegetables. We were only allowed to eat pie.
Sometimes I tried to bring a bag of carrot sticks back from the grocery store and he would call me gay and then throw them out into the garbage can.
Exactly.
But it was because he was sad about how his dead wife used to eat carrot sticks.
Yeah.
No, you're right. They couldn't put vegetables in this scene without heavy implications. Jesus fucking Christ.
Yeah.
Well, Cass likes Phoebe and Chase.
This is true. Love him.
Love him. Okay, and then we have, like, I hate this dialogue exchange. Sam's watching sadly, and he, like, shakes his head. And Dean goes, what? And Sam goes, I just never realized how long you've been cleaning up Dad's messes. Who cares? Who cares? Who cares? Also, I don't view you telling your mom I love you after she has a fight with your dad as, like, cleaning up John's messes? Like,
I don't know.
It's just such a weird way to frame this.
You know how I was like, I don't want to talk about other Christian denominations the wrong way because I'm a Catholic.
Yeah.
I don't want to, like, make, seemingly informed statements about divorce and children's of divorce because, like, I live in a very happy family. So I don't know, man.
Are you going to say anything else?
No, nothing. That's it.
That's it.
I'm abstaining from this conversation. I don't know how people with fucked up parents who are divorced or whatever act. Maybe this is how they see it.
My parents aren't divorced, but they definitely have considered it a few times, and I was actively pushing for it a few times as a child.
That's crazy. Oh, sorry.
Yeah.
That's normal.
I don't know. Cleaning up Dad's messes. I think the only real insight I get from that line is that I think it's interesting that Sam immediately assumes that it's John's fault, whatever the fight is.
This is true, yeah.
Like, it could be Mary's fault, it could be both of their faults.
Yeah. I mean, the last time we saw of Mary and John, Mary was hiding her hunter status. And then John finds out and is mad about it. And I think in this story, we are supposed to empathize with Mary. In a rare turn of events, we're supposed to empathize with the woman. Yeah. But because of the hunter, because she's a hunter. And that's like, yeah. And I think in that situation, I do find it interesting because, like, you know, Sam and Dean and also the story sides with Mary pretty exclusively. But, like, I do think, like, John has a point for being, like, upset.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree.
So, like, I don't know. Maybe because Sam, who last saw that, and it was like, it was John's fault. Like, John shouldn't have been mad. Now, it's probably John's fault, too. Just because, you know, follow through. Recency bias or whatever that's called.
Yeah, that makes sense. It's, I don't, like, parents fight sometimes. Like, it's like a John's mess because he left the household to cool off for a few days instead of staying and having the fight in the house where Sam and Dean are. Like, I'm not particularly upset at him in here, and I wouldn't consider this fight like a John's mess. And I don't know. It's a weird way to frame it.
I've never seen my parents fight. Like, I literally cannot talk about this. Like, I don't know how to interface with this. So, yeah.
Yeah.
I cannot even conceptualize a version where my parents are fighting in front of me. Or, like, my dad leaves for a bit. So, like, to me, this is, like, extreme. Like, this is so extreme. It's unreal.
Oh.
So, but, I'm only, like, in this conversation is, like, the first time that I'm thinking like, oh, okay, like you're right. Like probably like the alternative is like fighting in the house.
Yeah, which is worse for the kids, I think.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I think he made like a fine decision here. Like the only like issue is that I guess from Sam's perspective is that he didn't immediately go like, "Sorry, Mary, you're right," and then stop fighting. But we don't know what they were fighting about, so I don't know if that would be like the correct decision or whatever.
Yeah.
I don't like Mary chose to take the call in front of Dean. Also, like it wouldn't have affected Dean if Dean wasn't aware of it. And like he's aware of it because Mary
the
took
telephone
the
is there, so like
yeah, but like she could have asked him to like take the sandwich to his room or something.
Dean, my beautiful child, take your glass of milk and sandwich with
your
the
crustless
Prescott
PB&J to your giant children's bedroom
with your Hot Wheels and then play there.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not blaming her either. Like, she's trying to, like, keep her voice down and, like, not get into details on the phone. Like, I think both of them are doing the best that they can, which is why it's weird that it's characterized as John's mess.
Yeah.
I guess it took some form of an emotional toll on Dean, and he felt the need to comfort Mary or whatever, but I just don't think this is, like, a situation where you blame anybody involved. But whatevs. This is Sam's whole, wow, Dean's so great and cool and I don't appreciate him enough is meant to be Sam's journey in this episode. So
hilarious that like Sam's journey is Dean's so cool. And Dean's journey is like, I will resent
so
Sam
horrible.
Forever.
Yeah.
Sam has never placed any importance in our relationship and I will push him out and throw away the one gift he gave me. Goodbye.
It's so crazy that he did that.
I mean, it's kind of because like taken out of context, that scene, I think I primarily understood it as like he's throwing it away because of the hopelessness regarding the God thing.
Yeah,
and I knew that like I knew that was the necklace Sam gave him, but like I didn't think that was the primary reason for the throwing it out. But like this episode really makes it so clear that no, that is the primary reason. Like even if they found God, I think even if they found God and Cass was like, oh my god, we already found God and the apocalypse has been completely averted. Here's your necklace back. Dean would still throw it out.
I don't need this.
Yeah. So, I mean,
Christ.
Spoiler? You want a spoiler? Sam keeps this.
Aww.
And he keeps it on him. Like in season 11, when
God
it
starts
shows
lighting up again because Chuck turns off his power.
He flips the switch of the light.
Yeah.
But the light starts shining and it's inside his jacket. He keeps it around and he keeps it on him, which I do think about. And I'm like, well, yeah.
They search the house and Sam finds a Route 66 postcard. And he recognizes it. And we cut to a new memory, which we're inside like a shack. Sam sees a dog come in and he's so excited. The dog's name is
He's
Bones.
so happy. We rarely see Sam actually happy. It's wild.
Yeah. This is like the most he's smiled in Supernatural.
Ever. Yeah.
You know, he's petting the dog. He's talking to it. It's licking Sam's
There's
face.
like a pizza box. And he immediately goes for it like, to start feeding the pizza to the kid. And that's so wonderful.
Did Sam come up with the name Bones for his dog?
What's this? Yeah, maybe. Is it Bones? Like, oh, it's a Star Trek. Probably it's a Star Trek thing.
Is it?
Yeah.
Bones.
The doctor is called Bones in Star Trek.
I mean, I just assumed it's because dogs, like,
Oh, that's
like chew on
true.
Bones.
I forgot the dog lore. Yeah.
I think if Dean named a dog Bones, it would be after the Star Trek.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think Sam just came up with a very unimaginative dog name. Kind of funny for a hunter to name a dog Bones. Like, are you going to salt and burn him? What's up? He says Bones was my dog. Oh, how long did he have this dog? Like, not so long, right? Like, he only ran
He was
away
out
for
for
a
2
little
weeks or something. So he literally just like fostered the dog, I guess. Where did the dog go
where did
after?
it go?
Where did he find it?
Yeah, it's
Did
a
he hit it
very
with his
well-groomed
bike?
dog to have found on the street.
He
No,
hit
for
his
real.
bike.
Yeah, and then he took it to the vet, and then the vet
the
was
vet
like,
was like-
no, you need to adopt it. God.
Wonderful.
Sam and dogs, truly. Dean looks around and he starts getting really mad, and he asks if this is Flagstaff. He goes, this is a good memory for you? And Sam's like, yeah, I was on my own for 2 weeks. And yeah, he got to eat junk food, which, isn't that what you were already doing?
Yeah, but he specifically talked about eating
Funyuns.
Funyuns and Mr.
Pibb.
Pibb. Yeah.
No, exactly. He couldn't eat Funyuns before because there were onions in that, and that's a vegetable.
And he couldn't drink Mr. Pibb because it's an offshoot of Dr. Pepper, and pepper is a vegetable.
It's a vegetable. Yes. Exactly.
This
You're
is
right.
the truth of the matter.
This is the start of him healing.
Yeah.
You know, it's the artificial vegetables. Soon, if they hadn't come gotten him, he would have moved on to veggie straws and then French fries, and then, you know, like maybe in a year he would have eaten a salad.
This is true. When he gets out of Stanford, the first thing he does is go to the bushes on the side of the house and pick up some berries and eat them. And he's like, wow, I'm free.
Yeah. Yeah, that was going to be the next step of his best memory, but Dean interrupted. Sam's having a wonderful time, and Dean just has to ruin it. Like, sometimes you don't have to talk, you know?
Yeah,
Like,
sometimes you just
don't
need to
have
keep that shit to yourself.
Dean goes, wow. And he says, oh, like, you don't remember, do you? You ran away on my watch. I looked everywhere for you. I thought you were dead. And when Dad came home... And, okay, Sam probably should have left a note. Sure. But, like, they were both kids. Like, whatever. Like, the fact that Dean's still, like, mad about this, like, now?
I mean, like, it's misdirected anger is what it is.
Yeah,
like it's not
the anger
Sam's
should be at
fault.
John for reacting how he did when he got back.
And I think what is, I guess the point they're trying to make is that
Sam's
like,
so inconsiderate.
Sam actively gunning for independence. Like, literally what I said earlier about Kendall's quote. Like, Sam actively gunning for independence is actively taking away from Dean in some way.
Yeah. God.
And I mean, I don't want to... The thing is, like, as a kid, probably Dean actually really did feel really resentful about this. And I think
which is fine.
Which is fine. I think, when you grow up, you do need to mature a bit and, like, understand... have a bit more of compassion for your 4-year younger brother. Like,
yep.
I always forget this, and then I remember it. I'm like shocked. Sam is 4 years younger than Dean.
Yeah,
that's
like, a lot of years.
Especially when you're younger, that's a massive age gap. And like, I don't know, just have some compassion for the kid.
Yeah. I just think it's so sick that this entire episode is just about Sam realizing that he's been so selfish to, like, want to be independent, and he didn't think about how his actions were affecting Dean, but, like, there's no, like, reciprocal, like, Dean thinking about how his actions or their household could have affected Sam to the point that all of his best memories are about escaping it, you know?
Yeah.
Like this should be a two-way street.
Yeah, like, if Dean had a realization of some point of, as we said earlier, it's kind of fucked up that all of your memories are kind of horrible. You know, like, that can be an avenue of realization, but obviously they don't give a shit.
Yeah. It's just Sam was wrong for going to his girlfriend's house for Thanksgiving when he was 11.
Yeah.
Like, okay.
You should have stayed home and, I don't know, ate Popeyes or whatever.
Yeah, I know that's not the point they were making with that. The point is that Sam was wrong for liking going to his girlfriend's house when he was 11 for Thanksgiving. Not that he was wrong to do it, which is just as stupid.
No,
but yeah. Sam, like, goes, sorry, Dean, which is fucking insane. Yeah, he goes, sorry, I never thought about it like that. And, like, yeah, sure, like, I get the like, maybe I should have thought about how when Dad got home he would take it out on you, whatever. But, like, ugh, who give a fuck? So, yeah, so they head out, because Dean is like, let's go. And Sam has to, like, tell Bones to stay. And then he leaves that poor dog alone. And they're out in the street.
Like, they go out to the nighttime. It's a dark street. And Dean goes, what the fuck is this? What the fuck is this? And he's right to ask it. What the fuck is this? And Sam goes like, I don't know. No, let's go. Let's go, dude. I don't know.
Yeah.
And Dean realizes that this is, in fact, Sanford night. And he's like, this is your idea of heaven? Wow. And yeah, he's like, this is one of the worst nights of my life. Sam's like, well, I can't control this stuff. Talking about, like, the which memories he likes.
Yeah.
Which is, like, yeah. And, like, Samus is not purposefully being unkind, is the thing. Like, but it doesn't matter to Dean. I think to Dean's head, like, the fact that it's not purposeful makes it worse because that's just what you are like. Which is the same sentiment he talked about in, like, I don't know, like...
421?
Yeah.
During the hotel fight?
Yeah, that, like, it's just what you are. And it's like, well, yeah. Yeah, Dean's like, seriously? And Sam goes, yeah, I got away from Dad. And Dean goes, well, he wasn't the only one you got away from.
I hate Dean Winchester. He's the most annoying man that's ever existed.
This is true, yeah.
And also, like, there was a really bad fight that happened before Sam left, right? I assume? Or was the Sanford fight the day that he left, or was it, like, earlier?
No, I think it was, like, day off, and then he goes off. So this is, like, immediately after the fight.
And he is alone in the street, meaning that Dean didn't see him off.
Yeah.
Or maybe the best memory starts after Dean leaves, after seeing him off.
Yeah. I mean, probably this is like he's a bit far now, whatever. But like Dean recognizes it, so he knows.
Yeah, so I think it's like right outside of the place they were staying.
Yeah.
Or it could be like right outside of wherever Dean walked him to and then left. It's not certain. But yeah. Ugh. Yeah, the fact that it was, like, such a horrible fight, but it is still one of Sam's best memories makes me very sad about Sam Winchester.
Yeah. But, I mean, like, there must be really, like, a strong feeling of freedom or whatever, when you have like this massive fight where you just lay it all out and then it's done.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, a lot of his best memories are about like relief or whatever, I suppose.
Yeah. This Dean is like, wow, so all of your memories about bailing on your family, what do you want me to say? I'm so sorry about this voice. And Sam goes, well, I'm
For
sorry,
the 10th
Dean.
anniversary of Supernatural, they're gonna release the Babpod dubbed over version of every single episode. And it's gonna be beautiful.
This is true. And Sam goes, well, I never got the crusts off my PB&J like a fucking loser, dude. So, yeah, I don't look at family the way you do. And Dean goes, but I'm your family.
Yeah, and did you cut Sam's crusts off? Clearly not, so maybe think about that.
This is so hilarious. This is the part of the episode where I was just like, let's just laugh. Let's just laugh it off, you guys. Because it's so ridiculous at this point. Like, what do you mean? What do you mean? Well, yeah. And Dean's like, well, we're supposed to be a team, you and me against the world, right? And Sam goes, yeah, it is. And Dean goes, is it? I cannot interface with this seriously. It's so stupid. Yeah.
Like, I just don't... like, Sam likes being alone equals, like, he doesn't want to stop the apocalypse with me. But it's because, like, Dean only wants to stop the apocalypse with Sam because he, like, is obsessed with his role as Big Brother. I don't get it. What's happening?
Yeah. The thing about Sam and Dean is they're the opposite of found family. Like, they need to unfind that family is what they need to do. Just as, Sam's about to respond, the searchlight is back and goes directly at Dean. And I was like, oh my god, he's getting alien abducted. Imagine if, like, Sam goes out of like, he's like, finally, I'm leaving this terrible family. He goes on the road on his way to Stanford and then just gets abducted by aliens. So sorry, Sam. But fortunately, that's not what happened.
Are they nice aliens?
Well, let's hope. I don't actually remember. There's never aliens in Supernatural.
There's like the fake
the fairies
alien abduction in Tall Tales. But that one is that they sexually assault the guy, and that's about it.
Yeah, and also like in season 6, it's a fake alien abduction. It's not actually an alien. Yeah. And I think in that episode, Bobby was like, there's no fucking aliens. Don't be ridiculous. Which is so funny. But hell yeah.
I think he says that in Tall Tales, maybe.
Did he really? Well,
I'm not sure. But yeah.
But yeah, they're running. And Zachariah is walking and looking for them. And there's like this, like, I mean, he snaps them to daylight, which I did like. And then, like, there's this portion where Zachariah is doing like a speech that's kind of useless. It's just like, hello. That's all he says. He does the speech, he says hello, and that's it. But yeah, it's kind of, Zachariah is like a boring character.
He is really boring. Like, none of his speech patterns are interesting. None of his acting choices are interesting.
Nothing he actually says is interesting. Yeah.
He's not, like, intimidating. I feel like there was a point when he was meant to be intimidating, and he was, and now he's just not.
I mean, his first episode was really good. We talked about that. We said we liked it. And, like, I really did, actually. His role in Terrible Life.
Yeah.
And now it's like, whatever, man. Shut the fuck up. I think because Zachariah is good there. Because of the juxtaposition between him and the angels we have seen. Mm-hmm. But now, we have removed Anna. We have removed Uriel. Yeah. And Cass has transcended the role of an angel in the show. You know what I mean? Like, He's part of our team now, not like the Angels team. So really, our only representative of what an angel is Zechariah and like Michael, I guess, but like not really because
and
Michael is
Raphael,
Michael.
But yeah, they're both archangels.
Oh yeah, you're right, Raphael.
And yeah.
I don't know. I feel like the archangels are like a separate thing. That's why I was
I
like,
agree.
Michael is Michael.
Yeah.
But like the establishment of heaven, it's just Zechariah now that's like recurring. And it's boring. Because like, you know, the fact that Uriel was so serious and so like hates humans, but he's not exactly smarmy about it the way Zechariah is, who acts very human in his own right in terms of like being a smarmy businessman. Like that's the whole point. It's what sets him apart, but now there's no setting apart because it's just him. Also, like Joshua. Well, let's talk about Joshua when he shows up. But yeah, as they're running, Sam and Dean come across a guy in like a mask and a cape, and then he leads them out to a shack and writes some symbols on the door. And then as they go in, it's revealed that this is in fact Ash.
Hi,
Yay. You know, I did enjoy him this episode.
Yeah.
I think I enjoyed him a lot less when Pamela shows up, because like having Ash here and then having Pamela here really exemplifies the misogyny in which Supernatural writes their characters. Like, why is Ash like still like a full-fleshed character?
Yeah, he's like, it's me, I'm cool, I've done all this hacker shit, blah,
Yeah.
blah, and Pamela's just like, Dean, what if I state one of the opposing viewpoints to your viewpoint in order to push the themes of the season forward?
Yeah, like Ash is enjoyable because he's a character, but it just makes it more distinct that the other people here are non-characters, and specifically the woman that is supposed to be like on Ash's side or like equivalent to Ash's role. But I mean, yeah, I did enjoy him. Loved seeing his mullet, and you know he does the clap to turn on the lights, which is super fun. And it's the Roadhouse. He's in the Roadhouse.
He's getting them settled in, getting them beers. Sam asks, like, no offense, how did you make it to heaven? Which,
Iconic.
like, Ash died, like, trying to help them in season 2. Like, he's, like, a good guy. Like,
yeah. I cannot think of a situation.
Wait, we didn't even talk
Ash
about the
would not be.
conversation where Sam says that he doesn't
Sam and
understand
Dean.
why he's in heaven
Yeah.
earlier. How did we miss that?
Yeah. Well, because we were upset about everything.
Complaining. Okay.
Yeah.
So earlier, like when Sam and Dean meet up outside of the Thanksgiving house, Sam asks Dean, like, how did, like, I make it here? Like, you I get, but, like, me, I've, like, done things.
Yeah.
And Dean says, like, well, you thought you were doing the right thing. And Sam's like, I mean, road to hell paved with good intentions, though. So, yeah. But, so he thinks that Dean deserves heaven, but Ash doesn't? What did Ash even do wrong?
Literally. Also, I mean, that does pose an interesting idea of, like, what wrong is. Like, you know, Sam did it because he thought he was doing a good thing, whatever. But, like, is it utilitarian? Is it, like, based on your process of decision making, or is it, you know, the output?
Yeah.
But, like, I suppose if Sam thinks it's output based, well, Dean also did start the apocalypse.
Yeah.
Like, he also did do that.
The show treats it like they're equally responsible for
Yeah.
Sam, like, doing it not knowing, and then Dean not stopping him.
Is Sam thinking, like, you need to actively do good to get to heaven? Which, like, I don't think
Which
that's...
Ash did.
Yeah. But also, like, is that the case? Like...
Yeah, I don't think that's the case. Because,
No,
hell's,
I mean...
like, really bad.
No.
Like, there's so much torture down there. I think, like...
what I'm asking is, like...
Yeah.
Do you need to do good to get to heaven? Can you just be, like, completely neutral in terms of goodness in the world? Because, like, it feels like heaven is such a severe punishment if you're just, like, a fine person.
Yeah. Agreed.
But I suppose Dean will make the case that heaven is also a punishment, even though he went to hell for 40 years, and I don't think he'd say that.
Yeah.
Like, I think he'll say that, like, it's not real. But, like, what, you know, later he says, like, yeah, but hell is real. And it's like, what are we even doing here? What are you talking about, Dean? Like, he could have said that, like, Earth is more real than heaven, and heaven is supposed to be the paradise. Like, how is that the case? But, like, to compare it to, like, hell is real. Like, if hell was, like, just bastardizations of your memories where you're getting tortured, like, would that make it on par with heaven? Like, what's happening? If it was fake, would it be on par with heaven? Is the question. We need to take Dean in and, like, get him into theology is what we need to do.
Agreed.
He'll be the most annoying person in the world.
Okay, so Ash explains that basically everybody has their own heavens, and they're all crammed together. Like Disneyland, except without all the anti-Semitism. He says that there's the garden at the center of heaven, and most people don't share heavens unless they're soulmates. And, yeah. Did Dean actually think he and Sam were soulmates?
It's very clear that they're not.
Yeah.
Like, that's the point of the episode.
Yeah, but, like, but it's, like, the idea is, like, there's, like, a pause. Like, the idea is that, like, it's, like a sad revelation to them that they're not soulmates. You know what I mean? Which means that, like, previously, at least Dean had the idea that they would be soulmates. Like, if he was told about shared heavens before going there, he'd be like, oh, yeah, me and Sam will probably share one.
That's
right?
an
Like,
insane
that's what the
thing
pause
to
is.
think.
Like, I don't think that's true, Dean Winchester. And it's not true, but I guess he literally has no one besides Bobby who's like a father to him, and Sam who's like a brother to him. So,
yeah.
And Cass who's like a brother to him.
Yeah. And Joe who's like a sister to him.
Yeah. Yeah. And Lisa, who's like a wife to him, I guess.
And Ben, who's like a son to him. Iconic.
And that guy in Night Shifters who's like a best friend.
That he just let go.
Yeah, also, okay, so the idea of soulmates is also like you have to have met them. Like, it's not like the Good Place soulmates.
Yeah.
So,
also,
yeah.
I mean, Mary and John were Cupided together.
Yes.
So, like, how does that work?
And I guess they're soulmates because they were Cupided.
Okay. So that was, like, intentional.
Maybe.
Like, did it just happen that they were also soulmates and they were also Cupided together?
Yeah. That's how I view it, at least.
Okay. Well, like, okay, what are the comparisons that you're going to make for The Good Place?
Oh, no, I was just gonna say, like, in the fake Good Place, like, you're supposed to meet your soulmate, but it's, like, people that you didn't actually meet. It's, like, the person who's dead who's, like, most suited to you. So Ash apparently has the skills to leave his heaven and go to other people's. How? Who knows?
He's special. He's not like other people. He says that, right? You're not most people.
Yeah, Dean says you're not most people. Because they don't say why.
Yeah. He also does this thing where he's like, yeah, I've gone to many heavens.
Yeah,
Johnny Cash,
goes, I went to
Andre
Johnny
the
Cash,
Giant.
And those are for Dean. And then he turns to Sam. And I saw Einstein. Sam, you went to college, right? Who's the first smart person I can think of?
He talks to Sam pretty much exclusively about it. And then, like, I mean, Dean, I think, also knows who Einstein is, man.
Yeah, I also think that Dean is aware of Einstein.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. Incredibly funny. And also, he met the guy who wrote the Kama Sutra, but he doesn't say that they slept together, which I thought was coming up maybe, but of course it wouldn't, because if Ash was bisexual, I would have heard.
Yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, he says that now that he's dead, he's living a lot more. And also, he made some kind of, like, device that can pick up Enochian and Angel Radio and stuff, and apparently he's fluent in Enochian now, which is quite cool. Okay, time passes in heaven faster than it passes on Earth, or like,
I think it's like vague, but it passes differently is what I would say.
Okay, I think it's cool that Ash learned Enochian. I don't know how he could have done that, but given that there's just, like, he doesn't know which words are the most common to say as angels, like, it's not like a direct translation from English. I don't think he can, like, guess what sound is the by what he hears the most, but, you know, whatever, somehow, because he's really smart, and what was it? Like, he got accepted to MIT but didn't go, or he did go to MIT?
But did it go? I think it was he got accepted, but did it go?
Yeah, no, because of his powers of how he got accepted into MIT but didn't go. He somehow figured it out. He and Cass should meet. Now that Cass can no longer go to heaven, like, he can't speak to anyone in his language anymore. Which I'm sure must be sad. Whatever. I guess angels talk to each other in English on Supernatural anyway, for some reason.
Yeah.
Yeah, this is where he reveals that he's seen them before up here. The angels must have wiped their memories. Yeah. Which one of them did he have a torrid love affair with before they were brought back to life and then they forgot?
You know what? I think it's Sam.
Yeah, I agree. Like, he follows Einstein up with the Kama Sutra guy, and he's still mostly talking to Sam at this point.
Yeah. Also, like, he brings in Pamela, and Pamela, they're trying to do a thing with Pamela and Dean. So I think it's, like, a subversion.
It's like, let me and Sam have some alone time. Maybe I can drop this knowledge on him. Also, yeah, when he reveals himself to be Ash, like, I feel like Sam, like, looks really, really happy to see him, like, more than Dean is.
Yeah. Also, it is pretty funny to me that while Pamela and Dean are having the conversation, whatever, like, Sam and Ash are just in the corner and we never hear what they're talking about or anything.
Well,
like, so
we know what they're talking about.
We know.
But yeah.
It's an exclusive from Bus Station Beauty's Supernatural Commentary Podcast.
So Sam asks, have you found anybody else like Ellen and Joe? And Ash goes, Ellen and Joe are dead? And it did make me emo.
Yeah. I mean, he talked up about, like, you know, how death for him was, like, actually, like, freeing and he's so happy here. But, like, he's still sad that, you know, Ellen and Joe died. Yeah, you can read that a lot of ways, obviously. But yeah.
Yeah. And
I mean,
yes,
I do. I think we've talked about this when we were talking about Ellen and Joe's death. Like, it's one of the deaths in Supernatural that they let permeate, and that's what I appreciate that about it. Like, they don't forget it; they let it linger. That's fun.
He asks if they went down fighting, and he's still trying to compose himself. And Sam goes, yeah, till the end. And Dean goes, a lot of good it did. And then he asks about his parents. And Ash says that he's been looking all over for them. Why?
Why does he give a fuck?
Like, yeah, what is John and Mary Winchester's relevance to his life?
Like, I don't think
does he think he's gonna have a fun time hanging out with them? Like, why?
He never met Mary. I don't think he ever met John. Because I feel like we would have known, perhaps.
Yeah.
And so, I'm sure, because he is a regular at the Roadhouse with Ellen, that he has met many more hunters that he would have a closer relationship with, probably. So, like, why is Mary and John a priority, like, at all? Why are they even on the list?
It's possible that Sam and Dean asked him to, like, in previous times when they died.
This is true. You're right.
Yeah.
Let's go with that.
So I guess that would be the reason that I would go with. But yeah, still a confusing thing to drop initially. So he didn't find them, but there is somebody that does want to talk to them. And he goes and he gets Pamela. And she is no longer blind. Which, okay, if you say so.
And yeah, as you said, like, Pamela and Dean talk while Sam and Ash are, like, in the corner doing computer stuff. Pamela, like, smacks Dean, but, like, rather softly, honestly. In the head.
Like, not hard at all.
And then she goes, "That's for getting me killed." And Dean's like, yeah, I mean, yeah.
Well, he says if it makes you feel any better, we got Ash killed too. And Ash shouts from the bar, "I'm cool with it." And Dean goes, he's cool with it.
Love that.
Which is pretty fun.
And yeah, Pamela starts doing, like, a really suspicious, almost MLM scheme-ish, like,
yeah, I
pep
thought
talk
that,
for
like,
heaven.
it was gonna be like a reveal that she was like possessed or some shit.
Oh yeah, or like Zechariah got to her in some way.
Yeah, but no,
No,
that's
she's
just how
just
she
really
feels.
into it. And yeah, she talks about how, like, oh, my heaven's amazing, you should see it. And Dean says, no, but, like, you know, it's not real because, like, you're in your own little universes and the angels run the show and you're not, you know, you're not with the actual people. Those are fake people. That's not Nirvana. That's the Matrix. I mean, I think Sam would like being away from real people, honestly.
I mean, yeah, that's why he doesn't even have fake people in 2 of his 3 memories.
Yeah. But Pamela is like, well, heaven is still better than hell. And Dean's like, yeah, but at least hell is real. And this isn't. And which is, again, insane. That's a wild thing to say. But yeah, Pamela is like,
I think down
I'm
there means Earth and not hell, actually. What he says real is down there.
No, because Pamela says attic is better than the basement. She's talking about heaven and hell. And Dean goes, yeah, but this isn't real. Real is down there. So real is hell.
But it just doesn't make sense for him to be talking about.
I know, but it is what he's saying.
I think it's like, yes, heaven is better than hell, but it's not real and Earth is real.
He's not saying Earth. I swear, he's not saying Earth. Okay, in a situation where you are not thinking about the soundness of this argument, you would think that he's talking about hell.
I thought it was Earth when I watched it.
Yeah, because it doesn't make sense for him to say it's hell. But that is what he's saying.
Okay. Yeah. All right. But then Pamela says close enough, which implies that it's an earth and heaven really like comparison that he's making.
Like close enough as in this is real enough. Like heaven is real enough.
But also that it's close enough to earth where the memories that
it's close enough to real is what
Okay.
Yeah.
Well,
how I figured out.
You know, our 5 listeners write in, let us know what you think.
This is true, yeah. And yeah, Dean is like, why are you telling me this? Like, why are you doing this recommendation to me? And Pamela says, because I know that Michael wants to possess you. And Dean's like, what? And Pamela says, well, what's the worst that could happen? And Dean says, a lot of people die. And Pamela goes, yeah, and they end up here, which is not that bad.
Not all of them are going to end up here. And also, why would she be invested in this at all? Like, I guess she's hanging out with Ash and they're both listening to, like, the Angel Radio. Does she know Enochian too by now? Probably. Nice. Or he translates, one of the two. So I guess, like, this is their entertainment, like, hearing what's going on with the apocalypse. So I guess she's decided to form some opinions on her favorite TV show, The Apocalypse.
Yeah.
Fair enough.
It's not really that bad. Whatever it is, though. Like...
Yeah.
But, yeah.
Yeah,
because like
it's an
the thing is like
idea that she's introducing, I guess. I just don't know why it's coming from Pamela, besides that like that was the actor they could get back on short notice.
Also, just the thing is like, again, it's about, you have to, for this to be the most efficient that it is, like for your heaven to be as good as it is, you have to like live out your whole life as it is. Because like otherwise you won't have enough memories to sustain that shit. So like what, like a baby dies, what happens? Literally, like what about the children, Pamela? Have you considered the children?
Yeah, I guess not.
And anyway, Sam and Ash have figured shit out, so off they go. So before they leave, like, you know, as Ash is preparing their door and whatever, Pamela says goodbye to Sam, who like gets a hug from her. And I did appreciate this mostly because I thought about how like Ellen didn't give a single shit about Sam. And I was like, oh my god, Sam's getting a hug. Wonderful. And then she goes to hug Dean. And then she kisses Dean, like makes out with him fully. And then she goes, yeah, just how I imagined. Which like, I mean, don't like it.
Yeah.
I mean, the way Supernatural does it's like Pamela has had a history of, I would say, unexpected sexual advances in Supernatural.
Yeah.
But like Supernatural never deals with it in any way. Like it's creepy or something. Because it's from a woman to a man.
She's hot, so they just would automatically want it anyway.
Yeah. Anyway, Sam and Dean head out. And they end up back in the house that they were in earlier.
Mary shows up in her white nightgown of being killed.
Love that. Yeah. No, actually, I hate that. Just to be clear.
Yeah. Just to be clear. And she asks, like, honey, why are you up? And Dean goes, sorry, I love you, but you're not real and we don't have time. And then Mary starts going sicko mode. She's like, oh, let me tell you about my nightmare. And, like, she's talking about the night that she burned to death and the blood stains start showing up on her nightgown. And then she tells Dean that, like, she never loved him and he was her burden. And it's because of him that she died, and then her eyes turn yellow, and this is supposedly supposed to be about Dean's guilt, that Mary died, and her eyes are going Azazel yellow. This is about Dean.
It's hilarious. You know when she says, like, you may think maybe you're, like, the common denominator and the fact that everybody leaves you. I'm like, yeah. I mean, probably.
Probably. But yeah, like, Dean's, like, so upset by this, and Sam's going, like, Dean, let's go. Like, Sam doesn't have a reaction to Mary in her death outfit
talking
dying
about her death,
because Azazel came over and killed her, and, like, in order to drip blood into his mouth, Azazel with the yellow eyes that Mary has
talking
right now.
in detail about, like, the experience of dying, like burning in the ceiling and your skin bubbling off, and, like, I mean, the whole bit about, like, the smell, I thought I left the pot roast, but, like, no, that was me. Like, that's very, like, that could have been effective if it wasn't delivered in a scene where, like, we just completely misdirect who is this scene for. Like,
like, Sam was in the crib.
Sam was in the room.
Mary would have seen Sam down there in the crib while it was happening. If she felt resentment, if she felt hatred, and, like, regret for, like, having a kid, like, that kid would be Sam.
She sees is that kid.
It's so weird. Like, what is this? Dab and Laughlin just are truly people who write episodes. Have either of them written, like, a single Sam-centric?
Well, let's hope not.
No, for real. Jump the Shark was, I think, pretty Sam-ish.
Yeah. Good enough for Sam.
Yeah, that was a decent Sam episode. I liked Jump the Shark.
I did too.
But yeah. And they did, I believe, The Children Are Our Future, where Sam goes, oh my god, he's just like me for real. So I guess they're capable of writing, like, okay Sam episodes. I just don't understand why, like, for this one, they were like, not only are we going to completely ignore Sam, we're going to redirect every potential Sam thing to be a Dean thing, even when it's obviously a Sam thing. But, you know, whatevs. And, I don't know. Like, the idea is that this is only being said because it's, like, something that Dean sort of believed? That Mary was glad to die so that she didn't have to make sandwiches for a 4-year-old?
I was so tired of cutting up crusts and pouring milk for you, Dean.
Pour your own damn milk. Goodbye.
You're 4 years old. You have some muscle dexterity on your hands. You fucking loser child.
It's your turn to bake the pie in the oven. I don't care if you get burned. I got burned. Yeah, I have no clue what the fuck this is supposed to play into.
Yeah.
But I'm fine with Sam, though. I'll pour Sam his milk. But yeah. So, blah, blah, blah. Like some of those would work with John, maybe, but, like, Mary? I don't get it. She says that, like, the best thing about being dead was that she could be away from specifically Dean. And says that everybody leaves him, such as her, who died, his dad, who died in order to save his life, and Sam,
who went to college,
is back now, who went to college. Like, I don't know if Dean's aware of this, but, like, when you move out of state for college, like a lot of people do this, and they in fact do leave for 4 years, and that's just how it goes.
Literally, yeah.
Yeah. Whatever. And then she goes, like, you ever ask yourself why? Maybe it's not them. Maybe it's you. Maybe it's your fault that your mom died on the ceiling when she was 4 for a deal that was related to Sam, But yeah, whatever. So, Zachariah shows up.
Oh.
And Sam goes, "You did this?" Which I think is so fucking funny. Like, damn, no. In fact, this is one of Dean's best memories when Mary said all this to him.
Sam Winchester. Sam, what do you mean Winchester strikes again?
Zachariah has two angels hold Sam and Dean down. And then he's like, "Yeah, I'm trying to stop you from getting to the garden. And also, I want to fuck your mom." And then he starts kissing her neck. Ugh. And it is quite gross. And then, we get two real famous lines right after the other. Because Zachariah says about Mary, "I've discovered she's quite the MILF." And Dean goes, "You can gloat all you want, you dick, you're still bald."
This is the part of, like, when I was like, I laughed in certain scenes. That "you're still bald" really caught me off guard. Like, it did shock me. And because, like, we don't even pan to Dean when it's being said. Like,
they should have just comes out and then done an overhead shot of his head.
Like, it just comes from off screen. Like, someone from the audience is shouting it. Love that.
God.
And then Zachariah says, basically, "You're only seeing a part of me."
Yeah, I have 6 wings and 4 faces, and one of whom is a lion. The other 3 are bald men, though.
Yeah.
But yeah. So, yeah, he's like caressing Mary's arm, and then he snaps and she's gone. And I just find it so hard to believe that angels would be into, like, your mom jokes, but played out for realsies.
Yeah.
Like, and, like, we also had Uriel have his moment where he's like, "Oh, Dean, did you get a little slice of angel cake about Anna?" It's like, why?
That's your coworker, dude.
Like, yeah, that's your boss. Also, like, I don't know, it's like, with Anna, like, with the female angel, it's like, oh, like, angels in heaven, like, they don't feel anything, and, like, there's the implication that they don't feel sexual desire or whatever in some way, I think, with Anna, right? Blah, 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 blah. But then, like, with the male angels, it's like, well, because they're men, they've got to act like regular men, aka misogynistic, right? It's just, I don't like it.
It's just, like, also, like, I mean, the way Supernatural presents Mary as a mother first and foremost. And, like, we have moved out of it a little bit with presentations of Mary in the flashbacks. Like, if the flashbacks did anything, it's, like, made Mary, like, an actual human person, an actual character in the show. And so it just feels a bit more egregious now to have Mary, or, like, the image of Mary, be literally used as a taunting figure for Sam and Dean, specifically in the context of "I'm fucking your mom" joke. Like,
yeah,
it's so whatever. Whatever.
Zachariah punches Dean in the stomach, and he's like, "This
really
is
got to him.
And this is, like, supposed to be like a revenge thing, and also to make them say yes or whatever." And he's just mad because he hasn't
His
been able to close the deal
reputation.
on them. What?
Yeah. Like, he's sad about his reputation.
Uh-huh.
It's like, oh no, they don't respect me anymore because I was
Yeah.
assigned you and you're difficult.
Yeah. He goes, Lucifer may be strong, but I'm petty.
Petty.
Real.
Yeah.
And then
I'm
Joshua
going to-
shows
I did
up.
like the line, I'm going to be the angel on your shoulder for the rest of eternity. Because that's gas.
Real.
That becomes gas to them. Literally.
Joshua shows up, and Zachariah tries to get him to go away, but he says, like, no, I need to speak to Sam and Dean. Like, we gotta. Like, God told me. And Zachariah says, you're lying, but Joshua's like, I wouldn't lie about this. But, and also, you know, sooner or later, God's gonna come back home, and he's gonna be real mad if you don't listen to him. And then Zachariah is like, okay, fine. It goes away. And then the scene shifts to a garden.
Let's talk about Joshua for a bit first before we get into the garden scene. To describe what he looks like, he is very different from all the other angels in that he's not in a corporate suit. And not in the way that Cass is. Because Cass is like, he has an overcoat over a corporate suit, right? But like, Joshua is wearing a gardener's outfit, I think. Like, he's in work clothes. And also, the way he is acted or directed is very, I don't know, because like heaven, whenever they talk about God, they never talk about God. They talk about heaven. And Joshua is like the only person who like talks about God as a person, and it's because God talks to him. And like, this does fall into, you know, the trope that Missouri also falls in, I think. Where it's what's the name that you
It's called the Magical Negro.
yeah. I don't know. It's like it does feel like a little bit like on purpose that they have a black man
Like,
play
yeah.
the
And he's
angel
like
who's
an old black man as well. And
Yeah.
he like acts old, I'd say, in the way that he walks and speaks.
yeah, like the acting and directing of it. Like that was the intention, to make him look like mystical in some way. And like I don't know. It's just like we do predominantly see white angels, and the black angels that we do have is Uriel and Raphael. And
yeah.
I like Uriel. I like Uriel. And like we talked about it last episode, right? Where we have this like such a big divide in terms of like how we interpret Uriel's character versus how the show meant it to be. But like for me, I think Uriel's fine.
Yeah.
Well, like I understand
And he
that the
should've
show
killed them.
was the show was doing whatever the fuck. And Raphael, we've only seen Raphael once so far. I think we'll see more of him in season 6. And then this Joshua. How do I put this? It's like the idea that like he is the only one who speculates about God in this way, in terms of like what God is feeling, blah blah blah. And then also like
And he
putting
has a connection to God. He's the only one that God talks to.
yeah. And like that specific connection to God, and also the fact that he's in a gardener's outfit. I mean,
Yeah.
I get that they're going for a vibe, but have you thought about the vibe really, for real?
Yeah. The Wikipedia summary of the Magical Negro trope says that the character is typically but not always in some way outwardly or inwardly disabled, either by discrimination, disability, or social constraint. They're often a janitor or prisoner. often has no past, but simply appears one day to help the white protagonist, and usually has some sort of magical power that's vaguely defined. And they're also closer to the earth. And I feel like these are all things that one can say about Joshua. Like, they really did check everything. Like, he's not a janitor or a prisoner, but I do think that being a gardener who's close to the earth is very similar.
I also do find it interesting that they didn't paint him in any way like he's in, because it was like the Garden of Eden. You know, he listed examples of what one can see if they were here in the like middle of heaven. And it's like, it could be God's throne room. For others, it's Eden. For you two, it's the Cleveland Botanical Gardens. And I think, I don't know, it's just the amalgamation of the everything. The fact that they're in a greenhouse. They're not in like an open garden. They're in a greenhouse. You can see the grills of the greenhouse, like the roof of it, in every shot of this scene. Yeah, again, they're going for a vibe. I just not sure if they should have.
Yeah, like, he's just not portrayed as like powerful.
Yeah,
like the way that angels typically are. Like, it's just like, this is an old man with a special connection to God.
Even with the way Zechariah,
very nice to you guys. Yeah.
Like, even with the way Zechariah talks to him, like he doesn't back down because he like respects Joshua or respects God even. Like, through Joshua or whatever. It's just like, whatever. I don't know. You know what I mean, right? Like, it's not about that. And also, like, just that we don't really gain anything about him as a character. Like, the reason why I was like talking about how like Zechariah is like really the only angel of heaven that we know, and that makes his character so bland because there's no juxtaposition to anything. And it's like, here an angel is introduced. Literally, this episode, an angel is introduced. And we don't know anything about him. He has, like, barely any discernible character traits that isn't so, like, stereotypical for the role they're giving him. And, like, that's it. I don't think we ever see Joshua again.
I haven't heard of him showing up again, which is very weird because you'd think, like, guy who God's talks messenger directly to would be, an important character to come back to, and also it'd be nice to know how he feels about that and what else he does with his time, but, you know, guess not. And also it's like, he's not Cass's friend either. Like, Cass says, like, you need to find an angel named Joshua. The rumor is that he talks to God. Like, already sort of places him in this, like, weird mystical, like, position. Because I feel like Cass personally knew
many angels.
Most of the angels that we've seen.
Like, he calls those angels he killed 2 of my brothers. And then Joshua is like, what, a different guy? Is there a chance that Joshua isn't an angel?
No, I mean, Cass calls him an angel.
Yeah, okay. So it's not just like God picked a random dude in heaven. I was like, I'm gonna talk to you now, which I think would have been hilarious.
Yeah.
I also just find the idea of like, in heaven, there is still like
labor?
Like the mystery. The mystery of it, of like talking to God, is still there. Like, I do find that interesting. That like Cass was like unsure if this was even real. Like, I mean, this is unrelated, I guess, but I have been thinking a lot about, like, I read a couple stuff. I've been getting really fierce with the Catholicism recently. But like there's this one thing about like Mary Magdalene and how like the way it is portrayed in the Bible is that after Jesus died, nobody believed him. Nobody believed that he'll be back, right? And when the disciples found out who he was in the Supper at Emmaus, it's like, wow, like that's so shocking, whatever. But like he like got Jesus was abandoned by all of his disciples, but now he really is back for real. But the thing is, like, he wasn't abandoned by all of his disciples. Like, Mary Magdalene still fully believed that Jesus would come back. But because she came to that conclusion in a way that isn't backed up by evidence and is purely faith-based, somehow that's wrong. Like, somehow that doesn't count. Like, in a religion where the whole point is faith, like the whole point is believing in something you cannot see and you cannot know for sure. So much of the Bible is and so much of like the disciples' belief in Jesus was like reliant on evidence. Like, I need to see the scar on your hand or the scar on your side. I only believe because you did the fish and the bread and you did the water to wine and you walked on the water and blah, blah, blah. Like, so much of the belief is reliant on seeing when the whole point is like believing without seeing. And then also the fact that like when you do believe without the seeing, somehow that's like doesn't count. Like that's not true. And I also was reading a bit about attitudes in the Philippines post independence, like after we gained independence from the United States. What are the political aspects of life in the Philippines? And there was this one about how like the Catholic Church didn't have as much power, and then it talked about how like the women who would come in were like the real believers. Like, women would go to church and they'd believe and they'd pray, and then the men, especially of those powerful families, would come in every Sunday still, but like when it's homily they'd like go off to smoke or something. Like, and then come back. And then like, you know how like, you know, it becomes of obligation and then of belief, and then like the difference between like believing in what you see versus believing just because. And like, I don't know, like the point of Joshua is to be the person who knows for sure.
Yeah.
And it like Sam asked like, how do we know you're for real? Like later, right? And then I just find it also so interesting. Again, this is like completely unrelated to everything. I'm so sorry. And also good luck on 2048. But like, I don't know.
You.
This is like, these are the things that I thought about upon watching this scene. The way belief and evidence in terms of faith works, and the complete diversion of it from how it ought to work in terms of like what the point is of religion. And then also like, I don't know how it works in heaven, where they do know there's a God, but they don't know if he's still here. And you know, they have a guy who says that God talks to him, but they can't know for sure that it's for real. And like the way Joshua, the way it is like, I mean, we don't have full evidence for this, but it feels like he is ostracized in a way in heaven. He seems pretty isolated from the angels. Zechariah doesn't like him. Cass has not heard of him, and Cass has heard of everyone. You know, like, it's a thought that I had. Whatever. I'm gonna trim that down.
No, I think it's all interesting. I just don't have much to add because I don't know things. Just like your parents never fight.
Literally. Okay, so what happens is that Joshua tells them that God is telling me that you should fuck off.
Yeah. We get a little. Well, he also says that he knows that God is on Earth right now, and he mentions that he thinks that the only reason that God talks to him specifically
is because
God is lonely, and also they're both gardeners. What was God gardening if Josh was the gardener for the Garden of Eden?
He was gardening. He was planting a garden of words or whatever. I don't know. I tried to make this work and it didn't. He was writing classic hits such as "Friendship is like a garden." That's what he was doing.
You have to water it and tend it and care about it. And you know what? I miss it. And I want it back.
Yeah, Sam, like the way it happens too is Sam's like, can you like get a message from us to God? And Josh was like, no, he has a message for you. And the message is back off. And, you know, he already knows everything you want to tell him. And he doesn't give a shit. He doesn't. This is so funny. I remember in a class of mine, like, I think we were reading the book of Job, and then this for like theology, and then somebody like the prof asked like, why, like, how is there still evil on earth or whatever? And I literally responded like, this was a fucking short answer thing. So like, my response was like, I don't think it's my problem. No, I think I said it's none of my business why there's evil on earth. And literally God is saying the
You're
same
like
thing.
God in this way.
Yeah, I'm like God in this way. It's none of my business. Yeah. Joshua says that, like, God already brought Dean back. He put you guys on the plane. He brought back Castiel, which is, I think, our first confirmation for real, that God brought back Castiel. Because there was that whole bit where Raphael, right, was like, maybe it was Michael. Who knows? Or no, maybe it was Lucifer. That's what he says.
Yeah, it was Lucifer.
And he granted you salvation in heaven. And then he turns to Sam specifically and goes, after everything you've done too. What? Yeah. And he says that, like, God doesn't give a shit anymore because he's intervened enough already. Magic amulet or not, you won't be able to find him. And Dean says, but he can stop it. And Joshua goes, yeah, but like, he won't. And then Joshua goes, why does he allow evil in the first place? I'm just like God in this way. And yeah, you could drive yourself nuts asking that question. And Dean's like, wait, so like he's just gonna he's just gonna watch the world burn? And Joshua says, I know how important this is to you, Dean. I'm
just
sorry.
You,
this
Dean.
This was
just
also
you.
important to Sam. This was also
just you,
important
Dean.
to Sam.
Sam doesn't give a fuck about whether or not the world ends or whether or not he gets possessed by Lucifer or what God thinks about him when he was the more religious one for most of his life. It's just, I know it was important to you, Dean. Sorry. Sam can fuck off. I don't, like, when people sat down and they thought thoughts and then they wrote, like, words and then they watched them being acted out, do they not, like, keep a little sticky note that's like, here are the characters that are standing here right now.
Literally.
And they should all get lines. Like, I don't get it.
They should have done it like Bobo Barons, where he keeps a sticky note of Sam in his laptop. The solution is so easy, you guys.
Exactly. It's so
so funny to me that he replied that to someone saying he probably had to Google who is Dean's brother in Supernatural when he wrote this. And he said, no, I keep a sticky note of his name. That was iconic. Mm-hmm. Anyway, Dean was like, yeah, whatever. He's just a deadbeat dad with a bunch of excuses. I'm used to that. And Joshua goes, except you don't know if you can this time. You can't kill the devil, and you're losing faith in yourself, your brother, and now this, which just even exemplifies even more.
Here.
Then he's talking to Dean specifically and not at all towards Sam.
Sam is also here. Whatever. I just as Andrew Dabb and Daniel Laughlin are two people, right? And sometimes I'm sure when they're writing an episode, they have to talk to another person, perhaps together. So then they're in a conversation where there's three people and they're talking, right? Like they've experienced this, where they're two people on a team of sorts and they're talking to a third person. Like, does one of them just not talk? Is it like, I'll be Sam this time, and then they just like duct tape over their mouth the whole time whenever like anybody else comes over to talk to them? Is that what their lives are?
Whoever wrote the Bank Vault episode needs to take notes from Andrew Dabb and Daniel Laughlin. Like, you don't need to put Sam in a bank vault. Even without a bank vault, you can completely write him out of a scene. Don't worry about it.
Exactly. It was written by Ben Edlund. He did Night Shifter.
No!
God bless.
Yeah. Anyway, Sam asks, like, are you lying? And Joshua goes, no lies. And Sam says, well, you see, you're not exactly the first angel we've met. And Joshua says, but I'm rooting for you. And I wish I could do more to help, but I just trimmed the hedges.
So, what are the jobs of other angels?
Exactly. Why,
Yeah, like, why is he feels like the only one that we've met who, like, labors. Like,
You're
I guess Zechariah's job is to get Sam and Dean to say yes. I guess that's his job.
But, like, that's
and
a very different
Yeah.
vibe from, like, I'm a gardener.
Yeah. And, you know, I don't have opinions
Cleveland
on
Botanical
anything.
Gardens can't sustain itself in heaven. Like, shut the fuck up.
Yeah. Sometimes it looks like God's throne room. Like, I guess, like, when it's just him in there, it just looks like whatever he expects it to look like, and it's some form of garden. But it just seems like everybody else is doing apocalypse-related jobs, and he's just like, oh, I'm just an old man here. Oh, it's not for me to have opinions on God or be, like, angry or think things or whatever. I'm just here to trim the hedges. Like, okay, interesting casting choice for this role, Supernatural.
Yeah. Anyway, Joshua goes, okay, bye-bye now, but also this time you're going to remember. And then he wishes them back to the world. Mm-hmm. And then, like, like, we pan back to the room from the intro, and Sam and Dean are still dead. And then Sam goes back to life, and he's like coughing, and he's like, you know, in shock and everything. Mm-hmm. And then Dean is also awake. And then, you know, Dean calls Cass. We cut to now Cass, who has been relayed the information, and he's in the room, and Sam and Dean are like packing their stuff up in the back, and Cass is like sad. He's sad, and he's saying like maybe Joshua was lying.
He's sad, but personally, like, confirmation that God brought him back to life. And, like, I don't know, like, I feel like, wouldn't someone just read this as, like, God has faith in me that I can stop it by myself, or whatever? No, really,
because, like, the way it was worded wasn't just, like, God isn't helping. It's God has already helped. Like, I feel like that's kind of, like, a sign like that you're, like, on the right path, God's done right?
For, like, years and years. Yeah,
it's
like,
you're on the right path. Yeah.
Yeah.
I support
what
you're trying to do. It can still
suck to be like, but I can't do it, and I'm asking for your help.
Yeah,
but, like,
and also, like,
I think a lot of, like, religion is like God, like, doesn't give me burdens that he knows I can't, like, make it through.
Yeah,
or whatever,
that's literally
right? Like,
isn't that something that I literally told you as a
probably
joke? Well, like, I read it for real. Cass is moping, and he's like, and I think what it is that here is someone who can just stop it, just end it right now, but like won't. And I mean, that must suck. And like, you know, Sam goes, I don't think he was, Cass, I'm sorry. And then we pan to Dean, and the rest of this scene with Cass is like Dean watching Cass specifically. Like we keep on going to Dean's face, watching Cass, and like the first shot back to Cass's face is like from Dean's perspective. Like that's how we're supposed to see it. Like Dean is seeing it this way, and the shot is like Cass kind of like half of his face facing away and like facing down, and he looked so nice that like my first thought immediately seeing this shot was like, oh, I get it. Like if I was like it's a situation where Dean is in love with Cass, like if this is what he's seeing, I'm like, yeah, I get it. Which is, I don't know. It was such an acute feeling when I watched the episode. It's sometimes it really does shock you. Yeah, but there's also like sad music playing in the background. Yeah, and Cass looks up to the sky, and he's facing away from Sam and Dean, and he goes, "You son of a bitch, I believed in." And then he collects himself and he turns around. He takes out the amulet and he hands it to Dean, who, like, this scene exclusively is, like, from Dean's perspective. Yeah. And I respect that. He says, "I don't need this anymore. It's worthless." And then, like, Cass turns around, and then we finally get a shot of Sam in this scene, and then he goes, "Cass, wait," and then we pan back to Cass was gone.
Yeah.
They really disrespect the fuck out of Sam. Like, it's iconic though. But yeah. And Sam goes to Dean, and he's like, "Don't worry, Dean. We'll find a way. We can still stop this, Dean." And Dean is like, "How?" And Sam goes, "I don't know, but we'll find it. You and me, we'll find it." Which is, typical ending of a Supernatural episode.
Yeah.
And then every episode they just go, "What if we change the reaction a little bit?" And here, the way they do it is that Dean is like kind of like disbelieving about this, and then he picks up his bag, he walks towards the door, and there's a very conveniently placed trash can by the door. And then he gets the amulet, and then he hovers it first over the trash can. Like he doesn't. This is a show. He's doing it for show. Like he's not doing it discreetly at all. He hovers the amulet over the trash can, lets go of it, and it clangs at the bottom of the trash can. Then he leaves. And we see Sam in the room, sad. And that's it. That's the end of the epi. Well, I mean, as we know, he picks this thing up from the trash can, which does make me feel a feeling.
Yeah. I mean, it's a nice necklace. Like, I wouldn't leave it there even if I didn't have a sentimental attachment. But yeah.
I've been watching that scene a lot recently, actually. Not recently. A little bit more back than recently. It's the "If I Have Wings." Like, no stuff. It's the Fare Thee Well. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's the Fare Thee Well scene. Which I did like, if I'm being honest. And I am being honest. Honesty. It's such a lovely word. Anyway, what do you think about this episode?
Bad.
It was bad. It was also fine, but it was also bad.
I can see why people would say that it's good, but I didn't feel that way.
I can see why people would not say it's bad, but I don't think I can see why people would say it's good. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Okay. Best line, worst line.
You're still bald.
No, yeah, I was gonna say. genuinely though, it's a really good line. Like, it really shocks you. And you know how Dean like always thinks about his comebacks like all the time. He's every single moment he's like, "What's the best comeback?" I feel like that is so funny because it's like, it's so like it's not even a comeback.
Playground.
You know? Like, it's not a well thought out comeback at all. It's just like, hey, you're still bald.
Yeah.
So funny. I think my worst line is Sam's line about like, you were always picking up Dad's messes.
Yeah, I also
corny.
complained about that line for a long time.
Yeah.
So probably that one for me as well.
You know, I also did like I did feel a feeling when Cass was like, maybe he was lying. Like, it's because it's the last. It's like Cass made up this reality in his head that like God was gonna help them, and if they just find God, then this is gonna happen. And then Joshua is saying something that completely disregards this premise that Cass has established as the truth. And now Cass is kind of like, trying to discredit that, because if Joshua really was saying the truth, then everything I believed in was a lie. And it was. I'm sorry, Cass.
Yeah, sorry, Cass. Well, spread those sheets.
We're really just going for the best line. You're still bald. I mean, it was pretty wonderful, honestly. So, there we go. Spread those sheets.
All right. Misogyny existed.
Yeah, I think quite fundamental to the episode. I think a tree.
Just because of the way Mary was throughout.
And also Pamela, I think.
And Pamela.
Yeah. Racism, I think, is also a tree.
Yeah.
Because it's fundamental to the episode.
Yeah. Like Josh was who they're trying to find the whole time.
Yeah. And like the way of finding him being like a whole journey as part of the effect of it. Yeah. Homophobia?
I don't recall any.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah. IMDb?
Yes.
Okay. So as you said, this is an episode that maybe like, but also, I don't think that much.
Really?
I don't know, actually. Actually, now that I think about it, I think people like it.
Yeah.
Like, actually much.
Yeah, I like we were excited about it before watching it.
Oh yeah, you're right. I went woohoo at the end of the episode and everything.
Yeah. So, I'm going to do one step down from it. I'm going to go with an 8.9.
I'll go for an 8 point. Actually, I was also going to go for an 8.9. But like, should I? Because you already are.
I mean, you just do whatever's truest in your heart.
I'll go for an 8.8. Let's hedge those bets. Okay, let's do it. Okay, so it's an 8.7.
Oh, nice. Good job.
Hedge that fucking bet.
I guess it's not as liked as I thought it was.
I don't actually know what hedge your bet means. Is that a positive thing? A negative thing?
It's a what?
Is it a positive or a negative thing?
It's just... Yeah, it says... The Cambridge Dictionary says it's to protect yourself against loss by supporting more than one possible result or both sides in a competition.
So I was hedging our collective bets is what we were doing.
Yeah.
So, wow. I'm a communist. Who would have thunk? Yeah. this one says this is good for season 5 because it's so offbeat. And it does work as an interesting way to contrast the bros' thoughts about what happiness is. This is true. It's just not done well. Like, I mean, we talked about it.
It's just that they said that one of them was right and one of them was wrong.
Yeah.
And that was pretty weird.
But it is interesting that, like, they have such different ideas of what it means to be happy. Like, that is, like, so much potential.
Mm-hmm.
Dude, who the fuck cares about Dean Winchester? Well, this person apparently who says, this episode always breaks my heart to watch how crushed Dean is when he sees Sam's happy memories, which is hilarious. Like, when you put it that way, it's so funny. I'm so sad about your happy memories. And then they go, actually, I can't blame Sam. So true.
Yeah. Yeah, this person says that they wish that they saw Joe and Ellen instead of Ash and Pamela. Also mentioned that Pamela had more of a thing for Sam when she was alive than Dean, so it was weird that she kissed Dean, which I think is true.
I think it's true, yeah. But she also had a thing for Dean, like she did, like, touch his dick, I think, or his thighs, right? In the Getting Sam. No, maybe. Like when Dean was like, he touched me here, the angel touched me here, or like the creature left this mark, and then, you know, ooh, not that kind of mark, remember?
No, I don't, but I believe you.
This one, you know, the one where they always put the title in Brazil. They hate this episode. Loathe it. Dark Side of the Moon is another pointless episode of Supernatural. The terrible fifth season has been in store for a long time with this silly story of war between angels and Lucifer and the apocalypse.
Real.
Now there's the revelation that Dean and Sam died several times and came back to life. I hope the season ends ASAP. That. My vote is 6.
That's not a revelation.
Yeah.
Yeah. Huh. Interesting.
And this one is like, they have gone too far on the idea of God.
Oh, yay. Someone said, I have this problem with the show that I'm seeing now where the show started revolving around self-righteous Dean. I love Dean. He's my favorite. I just think the show gets a little too biased, and it escapes my understanding why Sam burning in hell for eternity is better than Dean saying yes to Michael and killing Lucifer, who's in someone else's body. What does that mean? Like, wait, someone else should... Oh.
What part is this?
Oh my god, wait, they're so real. They're saying that Dean should say yes to Michael and then kill Lucifer while he's a Nick, and then Sam can just live out his happy little life.
This is true.
They're so correct. But yeah, I think... Yeah, but they're also saying that they dislike how Dean is too self-righteous and the show's too biased in his favor.
This is true.
Real.
Well... That's it for this episode of Busty Asian Beauties. Next week, we will be discussing Season 5, Episode 19, 99 Problems, featuring the Sam and Cass couch scene. Leave us a rating or review wherever you get your podcasts.
Follow us on social media. We are on Tumblr at bustyasianbeautiespod.tumblr.com. Our official tag is BABPOD, BABPod. Thanks to everyone who's donated to our Ko-fi at ko-fi.com/bustyasianbeautiespod, which is where our outtakes live. And check out our merch at babpod.redbubble.com.
You can email us any feedback, comments, or inquiries at bustyasianbeautiespod@gmail.com. See you guys next time. Bye.